Chapter 116. Black Heaven Sect, Towering Heaven Palace. Lan Yu was integrating the primordial emperor's essence while Chu Kuangren stood guard outside to test Lil Bing's cultivation progress over the past few years. Although Lil Bing was only an outer sect disciple, she was considered quite talented among cultivators. Otherwise, she would not have entered the Black Heaven Sect. Over the past few years, with the help of Towering Heaven Palace's spirit-gathering formation and various resources, she had improved rapidly and was not far from the Paradise Realm. She would be a Taoist in any orthodoxy. Your waterfall sword art is not bad, but it's still lacking a little. Come watch me. Chu Kuangren unleashed his Taoist rhyme and a silvery white waterfall suddenly formed in the void. The sword-based Taoist rhyme was extremely mysterious. Lil Bing watched from the side and could not help but exclaim, "That's amazing." She had seen several elders use the waterfall sword art before, but even they were not as skilled as Chu Kuangren. It was as natural as moving clouds and flowing water. Under Chu Kuangren's guidance, Lil Bing improved rapidly. "All right, go to the side and practice," Chu Kuangren said. Chu Kuangren leaned against the tree and muttered the fantasy roulette in his heart. Looking at the familiar roulette in front of him, his heart ached. It had been 3 years. He had been in closed-door meditation for 3 years. He had been so engrossed in the Emperor's scripture that he had not even played the lottery once. In the 365 days of a year, he had missed more than 1,000 lottery draws. How many treasures had he missed out on? Lottery draw. The roulette spun quickly. "Congratulations, host, for drawing a supreme godly attribute, Lucky Halo." Chu Kuangren gasped in shock. He felt dizzy. What did he just hear? Supreme godly? *CK. When he drew 10 consecutive lucky draws, he was at most a supreme godly attribute. Now it had given him a supreme godly attribute. Could it be that the fantasy roulette had malfunctioned? Or could it be that his accumulated luck had exploded after 3 years of not playing the lottery draw? "Lil Bing, come here." Chu Kuangren called Lil Bing over and pinched her face. "Does it hurt?" "Yes." Lil Bing looked at Chu Kuangren pitifully. "Then I'm not dreaming." Chu Kuangren loosened his grip and rubbed Lil Bing's face. "All right, go back to your training. Young master is so annoying." Lil Bing stomped her feet and snorted arrogantly. Chu Kuangren laughed foolishly on the spot for a while before he retrieved his lucky halo. He did not feel any changes at all. According to the introduction, the lucky halo could give a person extraordinary luck. In other words, he could turn misfortune into fortune and misfortune into fortune. He could even encounter a divine beast that recognized him as its master, pick up a fire stick that could be a peerless godly weapon, and buy another bottle of drink. To Chu Kuangren this would definitely be very useful. After all, luck was what he relied on to win the lottery. With this halo his luck would be off the charts. Just as Chu Kuangren was fantasizing about how lucky he was, a powerful surge of Taoist rhyme erupted from Lan Yu's room. Rays of white light converged in the air, and a vast sacred radiant intent emanated. Soon after, a white crown condensed. Within the crown, Tao beads condensed one after another. It was actually a supreme foundation, the 9-pearl crown. This phenomenon startled many people in the Black Heaven sect. This is a supreme foundation. This aura belongs to Lady Lan Yu. She has broken through to the Battle Monarch realm and even condensed the 9-pearl crown. How extraordinary. It seems that the divine predictor's evaluation was right. This woman is indeed a peerless beauty. Her future achievements will not be any weaker than the emperors of old. The phenomenon lasted for a while. Then the phenomenon dissipated and Lan Yu walked out. "Master." "Lan Yu, congratulations on successfully integrating the primordial emperor's essence, breaking through to the Battle Monarch realm, and condensing the 9-pearl crown." Chu Kuangren went up to congratulate her. Lan Yu smiled. "I guess it was all luck. When I was integrating the primordial emperor's essence, I suddenly felt something and tried to break through to the Battle Monarch realm. Initially, the foundation I condensed was only the 7-pearl crown. However, at the critical moment, a powerful force appeared in my body and helped me condense the 9-pearl crown. Later on, I found out that it was the power of the scepter of light in my body. It must have been affected by the primordial emperor's essence, and this sage ruler weapon regained some of its power." The scepter of light was a sage ruler weapon that Chu Kuangren had obtained from Yuan Ling's treasury. However, due to the impact of a mysterious battle, it was downgraded to an ordinary sage weapon. He did not expect it to be so useful to Lan Yu today, helping her to condense a supreme foundation. Speaking of which, this is all because of my good luck. If not for my holy radiant physique, the scepter of light, and the primordial emperor's essence, I wouldn't have been able to condense this 9-pearl crown, Lan Yu said. What? Chu Kuangren's eyes suddenly lit up. He had just drawn the lucky halo. Could it be that this lucky halo not only had an effect on him, but it could also enhance the luck of those around him? Could this be the legendary getting lucky? At that thought, Chu Kuangren was overjoyed. He had not drawn the lottery for 3 years, but this time he had drawn a grand prize. The next day, after Chu Kuangren washed up, he opened the lucky draw roulette and began to draw as usual. He rubbed his palms together, his eyes filled with anticipation. It was time to test his luck. In that case, what was the use of the so-called lucky halo? Congratulations, host. You've drawn the Starlight Technique Phantom Light Strike. Starlight? The smile on Chu Kuangren's face grew wider and wider until he finally laughed out loud. Why, it's true. I've really become the king of luck. Outside the door, Lan Yu was just about to knock on the door when she heard Chu Kuangren's laughter. She hesitated for a moment and decided to call him master later. After a while, the laughter gradually stopped. With a creak, the room door opened. Master. Lan Yu, how long have you been here? Chu Kuangren was a little embarrassed. Did she hear him laughing like an idiot in the room just now? How awkward would that be? Lan Yu smiled faintly. Just arrived. Since Master did not want others to notice his weird behavior, she decided to leave him some face. And that's good. Is there anything? Chu Kuangren asked. Someone has come to visit. It's Gu Chang'e and Princess Ling Long from the Royal Azure Dynasty, Lan Yu said. Oh, it's them. Chu Kuangren was quite surprised. Then let's go meet them. After all, I'm the fiancé of the Royal Azure Dynasty. Xintian Palace, Longevity Hall. The Royal Azure Dynasty's crown prince, Gu Chang'e and Princess Ling Long were both seated with Elder Rian personally attending to them. A few disciples beside them curiously looked at them, especially the female cultivators, who gritted their teeth and stared at Princess Ling Long. This woman is married to our elder senior brother? Ah, how infuriating. Although they were unhappy, the female cultivators had to admit that Princess Ling Long was the cream of the crop among the female cultivators in the Firmament Star, be it in terms of looks, temperament, qualifications, cultivation level, or status. In everyone's opinion, there were only a few who could compare to her. Elder senior brother is here. At that moment, outside the Longevity Hall, Chu Kuangren arrived with Lan Yu in his wide-sleeved robe. Princess Ling Long immediately looked over and a strange look flashed across her eyes. 3 years had passed, but he still did not change at all. He was still as gentle as jade, dashing in the wind, handsome and unrestrained, ethereal, outstanding and peerless in his generation. Chapter 117. Chu Kuangren. Seeing Chu Kuangren again after 3 years, Gu Chang'e's eyes lit up as she sized him up from head to toe. It had been 3 years. Ever since he obtained the primordial emperor's essence, he had never slacked off and had been cultivating diligently until now. All of it was to defeat Chu Kuangren one day. Brother Chu, you've been in closed-door meditation for 3 years. How have you been? Gu Chang'e's lips curled up as he greeted Chu Kuangren. However, his tone was playful. His meaning was obvious. He was telling Chu Kuangren that things had changed too quickly in the past 3 years, and it was no longer the time when Chu Kuangren could dominate the world. Yes, it's been 3 years. Things have changed too much, but some people never change. Crown Prince, for example, you're still the same person you are. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Gu Chang'e's face darkened when he heard that. Chu Kuangren, you're too presumptuous. Yes, Crown Prince, your expression makes me feel much better. We don't have to be so polite. Chu Kuangren smiled. All right brother, that's enough. Princess Ling Long interrupted Gu Chang'e. She walked towards Chu Kuangren and smiled sweetly. Fiancé, I've specially brought some spiritual nourishing treasures from the palace for your return from closed-door meditation. I hope you'll like them. Chu Kuangren was not used to Princess Ling Long calling him fiancé, but he still accepted her kindness with a smile. The few of them sat together and began to chat. However, before they could talk much, Gu Chang'e suddenly said, Chu Kuangren, I believe you've gained a lot from your closed-door meditation. I'd like to challenge you to a duel. Do you dare to accept my challenge? He had been suppressing himself for 3 years, and he could not wait to defeat Chu Kuangren. This was also the reason he came to the Black Heaven sect. I thought you'd have to hold it in for a while longer. I didn't expect you to be so impatient. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Cut the crap. Do you dare to fight me? Sure, I'll fulfill your wish. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. He was never afraid of a battle. Gu Chang'e was delighted when he heard that. He then walked out of the hall and got into a fighting stance, ready to fight. Many disciples gathered around, looking as if they were watching a show. Guchanga is going to compete with eldest brother. This man has the primordial emperor's essence and is the current young emperor. Will eldest senior brother be a match for him? You're new, right? You don't know eldest senior brother. 3 years ago, Guchanga couldn't even take one strike from eldest senior brother. Even if he had the primordial emperor's essence, he would at most take a few more strikes. Really? Is eldest senior brother really that powerful? Of course. Eldest senior brother has many miraculous abilities. Most of the disciples in the Black Heaven sect were extremely confident in Chu Kuangren, and this made Guchanga, who was at the side, furious. An incredibly powerful Taoist rhyme suddenly exploded from his body. The spiritual chi condensed into a solid dragon that circled above him and roared. A terrifying dragon might suppress everyone present. Those with slightly weaker cultivations were directly pressed to the ground on the spot. At that moment, a powerful aura erupted from the crowd of disciples and blocked the dragon might. It was Taoist Nangong Huang who had made his move. His eyes were filled with yin and yang chi as he stared at Guchanga and said coldly, "Is this all you can do, Crown Prince?" Guchanga glanced at him. "I'm teaching them what it means to say that trouble comes from the mouth. Don't let them gossip. They're telling the truth. You dare to challenge me but you won't allow others to speak the truth?" Chu Kuangren said as he walked out. With every step he took, the Taoist rhyme on his body became stronger, and a white lotus appeared in the void, quietly disintegrating the coercion emanating from Guchanga's body, like the spring wind and rain, nourishing everything silently. Chu Kuangren had mastered the white lotus light of purification to perfection. Guchanga's gaze froze when he saw that. Only then did he come back to his senses. Even if Chu Kuangren did not have the primordial emperor's essence, he was still the world's top sky pride. 3 years ago he was able to suppress everyone to the point where they could not even lift their heads. Even if the times had changed, he was still not to be underestimated. That's good too. Only then will he be worthy of being defeated by me, Guchanga said with bright eyes. Just when he was about to make his move, a powerful Taoist rhyme fluctuation came from afar and a figure flew towards him. It was a purple-haired young man with colorful flames surging around his body. His Taoist rhyme was domineering like a raging flame. It was the sky pride of Jianghu Valley, Lin Badian. Chu Kuangren can only be defeated by me, Lin Badian said as soon as he appeared and stared at Chu Kuangren. Just like Guchanga, he was also here to challenge Chu Kuangren. He's mine. Another cold voice echoed in the sky as a figure flew towards them like a meteor and landed on the ground. The ground shook and cracked. Amidst the dust, a black-robed young man walked out with his head held high. It was the young emperor of the Serene Wisdom Sacred Lands, Ao Chang. F***ck me, it's Ao Chang from the Serene Wisdom Sacred Lands, the sky pride from 30,000 years ago and the current young emperor. He's here too. There's also Lin Badian from Jianghu Valley. I heard that this person has mastered a type of sacred flame and his combat strength is unparalleled. Ordinary honorables are no match for him. Even among the young emperors, these two are among the best. I can't believe they're here for elder senior brother too. Look, someone's here again. At that moment, flowers fell from the sky as all kinds of Taoist rhymes appeared. There were wind, fire, mountains and rivers. A white-robed young man came with the 4 elements of earth, wind and fire. It was Yuan Hong from the Dharma sect. Brother Chu, long time no see. I'm here to defeat you today. Yuan Hong's eyes were bright as he made his presence known. Is there anyone else who's coming? If you don't show yourself now, you won't have the chance anymore. Chu Kuangren looked around and said, Brother Chu, it's been a while. Oh, there's someone else. Chu Kuangren looked towards the source of the voice and saw Taishu Temple's Wu Chenzi in a Taoist robe walking towards him. There was an otherworldly aura about him that made him extraordinary. Brother Wuchen, don't tell me you're here for a duel too. I've learned a lot from my sparring session with you, Brother Chu. Today I'd like to spar with you again, Wu Chenzi said. Losing to Chu Kuangren in the sparring session had always been a knot in his heart. Today he was here to untie that knot. Sai, I guess you'll have to queue up for a while. Chu Kuangren pointed at Guchanga and the others. The Black Heaven sect disciples were dumbfounded. What was going on? Elder senior brother had only come out of closed-door meditation for a few days, yet so many sky prides were here to challenge him? What did elder senior brother do to these people back then? Some of the new disciples were filled with question marks. Far away, Elder Rian, Honorable Shenqi and the others were watching. Sect leader, are we just going to let these juniors do whatever they want? Elder Rian frowned and said, "If not for Honorable Xianqi's permission, Lin Badian and the others would not have been able to enter the Black Heaven sect as they pleased. They would have been thrown out the moment they stepped into the mountain gate." "Fine, let them do whatever they want. Besides, I want to see what level Kuangren has reached." Honorable Xianqi laughed. Chapter 118. I was here first. Let me be the first to fight him. Gu Chang'e glanced at Ao Chang, Lin Badian, and the others coldly. Ao Chang replied indifferently, "I've already said that he's my prey. Only I can defeat him. You guys will have to queue behind me." "Oh, could it be that before we fight Chu Kuangren, the few of us are going to have another match?" Yuan Hong asked calmly. They all wanted to be the first to defeat Chu Kuangren, and no one would give in. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, smiled playfully and said, "There's no need to go through all that trouble. I have a suggestion." Everyone turned to look at him. He continued, "All of you can come at me together." Ao Chang's eyes flashed with anger upon hearing this. "Chu Kuangren, I can't believe you're still so arrogant even after 3 years. You can no longer do whatever you want in this era. You're outdated," Lin Badian said coldly. Then he raised his hand and channeled his spiritual power. A colorful flame appeared and transformed into a ferocious flaming beast. Compared to 3 years ago, Chu Kuangren was much more proficient in controlling the sacred flame. Moreover, with the primordial emperor's essence in his body, his understanding of Taoist techniques had improved by leaps and bounds. The power of the sacred flame was much stronger than it was 3 years ago. Even an honorable might not be able to block that attack. Chu Kuangren's expression did not change in the face of the sudden attack. However, his body began to blur in the void. The next moment, his entire body seemed to have turned into a ray of light and disappeared on the spot. His speed was so fast that no one could catch him. What technique is that? What a fast movement speed. This Taoist rhyme. I'm afraid it's some kind of sage ruler technique. Lin Badian and the others were shocked. 3 years ago, Chu Kuangren had never displayed such a cultivation technique. Sage ruler technique, phantom light strike. Lin Badian's spiritual thought surged as he tried to locate Chu Kuangren. However, an indifferent voice suddenly came from behind him. "Is that all you've improved in the past 3 years?" Behind him. Lin Badian's expression changed as he turned around and unleashed a palm attack. However, another hand was faster than him. Chu Kuangren stretched out his palm and slapped towards Lin Badian's face. In the eyes of the crowd, the palm that was not thick and could even be said to be as fair as jade was like an ancient divine mountain, incomparably majestic. Bang! The slap landed squarely on Lin Badian's face, shattering his saint flame and sending him flying thousands of feet away. Saint technique, human mountain stamp. With Chu Kuangren's current cultivation level, the sage ruler technique could already reach the point where he could summon the strength of a godly mountain with just a wave of his hand. So powerful. Gu Chang'e's pupils shrank slightly. Golden spiritual power flowed around his body, and his dragon vein Taoism form was activated to the extreme. He threw a punch at Chu Kuangren, and the roar of a dragon reverberated through the clouds. Dragon killing fist. A gigantic golden dragon shadow lunged towards Chu Kuangren with its jaws wide open. The terrifying might caused the void to tremble violently. This trick again. Don't you have any new tricks up your sleeves? Chu Kuangren shook his head as he lifted his right hand and gave it a light clap. The seemingly majestic dragon was directly smashed like a bubble, and its Taoist rhyme and spiritual power completely collapsed. Gu Chang'e almost vomited blood when he saw that. His dragon-killing fist had long reached the full mastery level. It was a sage technique with infinite power. With his current cultivation level, even an honorable would be killed if they were not careful. Yet Chu Kuangren had easily smashed it into pieces. Was there any justice in this world? As for new tricks? F***CKU, where did you get so many sage techniques from? After smashing the dragon into pieces, Chu Kuangren's figure once again became illusory. He turned into a stream of light and appeared in front of Gu Chang'e almost instantly. Gu Chang'e did not even have time to react. Too fast. That speed was just too fast. Chu Kuangren slowly raised his hand and unleashed another palm attack. The majestic human mountain strength immediately erupted from his palm. Gu Chang'e was hit in the chest, and his protective spiritual power was shattered. His chest almost caved in, and his whole body was blasted away like a cannonball. Waves of air surged in the air, and he was directly smashed into a mountain far away. That's the second one, Chu Kuangren said calmly. Then his gaze fell on Yuan Hong of the Dharma sect. Yuan Hong was shocked. He activated his spiritual power and manifested his Taoist rhymes. His feet moved in a mysterious manner, and his speed was as fast as a gust of wind. At the same time he activated another offensive technique. This technique was all-encompassing and extremely mysterious, and it seemed to contain a natural force within it. Chu Kuangren, you shall be defeated. Yuan Hong attacked Chu Kuangren as he moved. With a palm attack, the earth, wind, water and fire techniques exploded in the center of his palm, but Chu Kuangren still shattered his opponent's attack with just a light palm attack. How can this guy be so strong? Yuan Hong was extremely shocked. He used his speed to move around Chu Kuangren. You're using the Dharma sect's heavenly windborne technique. This technique is known for its fast movement speed. You've mastered it quite well. Chu Kuangren smiled. Yuan Hong's expression changed slightly. He remembered that Chu Kuangren had learned 8,000 techniques in the Steel Forest in half a day, and learned all the supreme techniques and sage techniques in 16 hours. That was unprecedented. Chu Kuangren knew every technique that Yuan Hong had used. Just as Yuan Hong was reminiscing about the past, a ray of light suddenly appeared in front of him. It was Chu Kuangren who had caught up to him in the blink of an eye. Your speed is not bad, but can you outrun the speed of light? Phantom Light Strike, Phantom Light Strike. This sage ruler technique was just like its name, it was as fast as a ray of light. What else in this world could be faster than the speed of light? While Yuan Hong was still in shock, Chu Kuangren's palm rapidly enlarged in his eyes before it landed on his face. Just like Gu Chang'e and Lin Badian, Yuan Hong was also sent flying. It's your turn. Chu Kuangren looked at Ao Chang. D*Amenet, Shield of the Mountain God. Ao Chang's expression changed drastically as he activated a sage ruler technique. Majestic spiritual qi gathered in front of him, and a heavy Taoist rhyme formed into a huge mountain. It was a top-notch defensive technique. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and activated the spiritual power within his body. The 5 supreme foundation levels in his spiritual mound radiated with boundless divine light at the same time. The power of the human mountain erupted, and with a single slap, the huge mountain in front of Chu Kuangren shattered. The violent impact landed on Ao Chang, causing his body to tremble and fly out uncontrollably. Beside him, Wu Chenzi gulped as he watched. Suddenly, Chu Kuangren turned into a ray of light and appeared in front of him. He smiled and said, "Brother Wuchen, why don't you fly for a while as well?" With a single slap, Wu Chenzi was also blasted away. The surrounding Black Heaven sect disciples were dumbfounded. It was too terrifying. Gu Chang'e, Ao Chang, Lin Badian, Yuan Hong, and Wu Chenzi were all young emperors. Any one of them could easily suppress the younger generation of cultivators, but in front of Chu Kuangren, they were as helpless as children. One slap for one. Is this our elder senior brother? He's too powerful. F***ck me, is this our elder senior brother? I love it. Chapter 119. Not far away, Lan Yu watched Chu Kuangren kill a young emperor with a single slap. Her eyes were filled with admiration and fanaticism, like the most devout believer. She knew that no one in this world could compare to the young master. As long as he wanted to, the world would remember him. Beside Lan Yu, Princess Linglong's eyes lit up and she could not help but lick her lips. This was her prince consort. He was indeed undefeatable. As expected of the young master. As expected of the prince consort. The two women said in unison. Then they looked at each other, turned their heads and snorted. In the distance, Honorable Shen Qi, Elder Rian, and the others also witnessed this scene. Haha, as expected of my disciple. Even without the primordial emperor's essence, you can still suppress the current generation. Honorable Shen Qi laughed heartily. But where did Kuang Ring get so many sage ruler techniques? Elder Rian frowned slightly, realizing that things were not as simple as they seemed. Sage ruler techniques were extremely rare, and even the Black Heaven sect did not have any of them. However, Chu Kuangren had used almost all of them. This was unbelievable. Kuangren is a man of great fortune. Look, the heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique was also created by him, and the White Lotus Light of Purification was taught by the School of White Lotus. As for the other techniques, he must have had other opportunities as well. Maybe. This child is full of surprises. Elder Rian shook her head and stopped thinking about it. All in all, Chu Kuangren was the elder senior brother of the Black Heaven sect. The more outstanding he was, the better it would be for the Black Heaven sect. Elder senior brother has been in seclusion for 3 years. Even though he missed out on the opportunity to obtain the primordial emperor's essence, he's still able to suppress the young emperor. He's too strong. That's right, as expected of eldest senior brother. Haha, what young emperor. It's just a matter of one palm. Nangong Huang Murong Xian, and the others looked at each other and smiled. They looked at the white-robed figure with fervent gazes. The other disciples were in awe and awe. Chu Kuangren stood where he was with his hands behind his back. A gentle breeze blew past, causing the corners of his clothes to flutter. His peerless beauty was dazzling and mesmerizing. What? You've only improved a little in the past 3 years? Just like that, who gave you the courage to challenge me? Chu Kuangren said calmly. Damn it, how can he be so strong? Gu Chang'e walked out of a pile of rubble, clutching her chest, her face full of horror. Not only him but the others were also extremely shocked. After all, in the past 3 years, they had improved tremendously with the help of the primordial emperor's essence. Most of the older generation cultivators were no match for them, but how could they be so weak before Chu Kuangren? One palm. He couldn't even take a light palm strike from him. They knew that Chu Kuangren's forte lay in swordsmanship, yet he was able to crush them without even using his sword. What would happen if he used a sword? Terrifying. I don't believe it. Ao Chang gritted his teeth. As an ancient sky pride who had the primordial emperor's essence, his combat strength was unparalleled. 3 years ago he was suppressed by Chu Kuangren. Would he still be suppressed 3 years later? Sage ruler magic, sunfall. Ao Chang gathered his spiritual energy and punched out. Violent Taoist rhymes intertwined, forming a terrifying sun. Meanwhile, Gu Chang'e, Yuan Hong, Wu Qinzi, and Lin Badian also activated their own techniques in Taoist rhymes, unleashing their ultimate techniques. 4 mystical arts, go. Dragon slaughter fist. Heavenly blaze prairie. Sunlight destruction. Earth, wind, water, fire, the power of the 4 mystical arts, the domineering dragon-shaped fist energy, and the burning sacred flame almost distorted the void. The sun rose from the sky and locked onto Chu Kuangren. A golden ray of light pierced through the air. The Sky Prides joined forces and unleashed an incredibly powerful attack. All sorts of Taoist rhymes circulated and shook the void. Faced with these attacks, Chu Kuangren smiled and a sword appeared in his hand. The sword looked like it was carved out of white jade, crystal clear and flawless. Sacred sword, Descendant Self. With the Descendant Self in his hand, Chu Kuangren slashed horizontally. The dazzling purple sword light gushed out, and several terrifying energies fiercely collided with each other in the void, causing a terrifying explosion. The ground shook, the void distorted, and the impact was like waves, one after another. Under this shockwave, the Sky Prides were all sent flying. Battle Monarch Domain. Ao Chang let out a shout. An invisible force field locked onto Chu Kuangren. Gu Chang'e, Yuan Hong, Lin Badian, and Wu Qinzi also activated their domains. In the past 3 years they had long reached the Battle Monarch realm. Their domain energy covered the sky and crushed towards Chu Kuangren. Each domain was a layer of shackles. 5 domains were 5 layers of shackles. Moreover, all 5 of them were young emperors, so their domain energy far exceeded that of an ordinary battle monarch. It could even suppress an honorable. Chu Kuangren felt the surrounding void change. The air became extremely viscous as if he had fallen into a quagmire. Every time he moved he had to expend far more energy than before. Is this a domain? Speaking of which, I've already reached the Battle Monarch realm 3 years ago. However, I've never tried this domain on anyone. Come and take a look. Chu Kuangren smiled and a surge of domain energy emerged from his body. It only lasted for an instant. The domain energy that Ao Chang, Gu Chang'e, and the others had unleashed was repelled by an even more terrifying force field. With a bang, the domain energy that was rebounded landed on the 5 of them, catching them off guard and causing them to suffer from the backlash. Not only that, but Chu Kuangren's domain energy also landed on them and instantly pressed them to the ground. That domain energy was too terrifying. Their domains paled in comparison to it. How can his domain be so powerful? It's too terrifying. Gu Chang'e and the others were pressed to the ground. Their bodies trembled as they tried their best to channel the spiritual power within their bodies to resist that force. However, the power of this domain not only suppressed their physical bodies, but also their spiritual powers. Now they felt like the spiritual power within their bodies was like a pool of stagnant water. No matter how they channeled it, there was not much fluctuation. They could not believe that Chu Kuangren's domain was this powerful. This domain isn't bad. Chu Kuangren smiled. He was quite satisfied with his domain. Chu Kuangren's foundation was too terrifying. With a Supreme 9-level Taoist foundation, a Supreme 9-vein golden core, a Supreme 9-colored nascent soul, a Supreme 9th-grade purple palace, and a Supreme 9-jeweled crown. There were only a few in the history of Firmament Star who had such a foundation. It was because of such a foundation that he was able to unleash such a powerful domain. He was absolutely invincible among those in the same realm. Chu Kuangren calmly looked at the people who were pressed to the ground and said, 3 years ago, I could suppress you to the point where you couldn't even lift your heads. 3 years later, I can still make you kneel on the ground obediently. Do you really think you can fight me just because you've obtained a so-called primordial emperor's essence and are called young emperors? What a joke. After that, Chu Kuangren retracted his domain. Ao Chang and the others felt their bodies relax as they regained their mobility. However, they did not relax at all. On the contrary, they were extremely depressed as a sense of helplessness arose in their hearts. It had been 3 years. In order to defeat Chu Kuangren for the past 3 years, they had been cultivating diligently without rest. They thought that with the primordial emperor's essence in hand, they would definitely be able to defeat Chu Kuangren once they became young emperors. However, they did not expect that Chu Kuangren would still be so powerful that it made them feel hopeless even without the primordial emperor's essence. Chapter 120. Chu Kuangren had defeated 5 young emperors effortlessly. His combat strength had shocked everyone. Even Honorable Shen Qi, Elder Rian, and the others who were mentally prepared, still found it unbelievable. In just 3 short years, Kuangren's cultivation base has not progressed much. However, his understanding of Dao techniques is so deep that it's amazing. Several of his sage ruler techniques have reached the perfect stage. It's unbelievable, Honorable Shen Qi said. The elders at the side also deeply agreed. Elder Rian said, even if he doesn't have the primordial emperor's essence, his innate talent is stronger than anything else. Not bad. With the lead disciple around, why should we worry about our Black Heaven sect not prospering? Haha, the Black Heaven sect is destined to prosper in this era. The sect leader and the elders were all beaming with joy. Ao Chang, Lin Badian, and the others left. They came in high spirits but left in low spirits. Today's defeat had not only reminded them of Chu Kuangren's strength, but it had also cast a shadow over their Taoist hearts. If he were to face Chu Kuangren in the future, he would probably be wary before the battle even started. The news of Chu Kuangren coming out from his closed-door meditation and defeating 5 young emperors in a row spread across the world on the second day. Every orthodoxy and cultivator was shocked by the news. He had disappeared without a trace for 3 years. Just when everyone thought that Chu Kuangren would never be able to shine again, he came out of his closed-door meditation and used his absolute strength to show everyone that he was still the same person who suppressed all the sky prides in the world. One brilliant feat, one brilliant feat. Chu Kuangren has been in closed-door meditation for 3 years and lost the chance to obtain the primordial emperor's essence, but he's still the same Chu Kuangren from back then. He shouldn't be underestimated. He's too powerful. He defeated 5 young emperors in a row. His combat strength is incredible. Is he really just a battle king? Now that Chu Kuangren has come out of his closed-door meditation, the world is going to be in turmoil again. Back then, when he first entered the world, he slew supremes and saints, leading the world into chaos. Now that he has come out of seclusion, I wonder what kind of commotion he will cause. Everyone in the world was talking about Chu Kuangren. Countless people thought back to 3 years ago, to the peerless young man in white who single-handedly suppressed all the geniuses in the world to the point where they couldn't even raise their heads. Now that the young man had come out of seclusion, what kind of waves would he cause? No one knew, but they were all looking forward to it. Princess, take care. In front of the Black Heaven sect's mountain entrance, Chu Kuangren was sending Princess Linglong off. Princess Linglong smiled sweetly and said, then I shall take my leave. If you have time, feel free to come to the Royal Azure Dynasty to look for me. Definitely. Chu Kuangren smiled. Then goodbye. Goodbye. After sending Princess Linglong off, Chu Kuangren returned to the Black Heaven sect. He did not have any plans for the future. There was nothing wrong with staying in the Black Heaven sect to cultivate. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Congratulations to the host for drawing a brilliant star item, Alchemist Permanent Experience Card 1. The Fantasy Roulette's voice sounded. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. Another starlight item. Over the past month, with the lucky aura hovering above his head, he had obtained quite a number of good prizes. Among them there were 10 silver tier prizes, 12 gold tier prizes, 3 starlight tier prizes and only 7 iron tier prizes. Before he had the lucky halo, Chu Kuangren was considered lucky if he could get a gold grade item once a month. Now, nearly half of the prizes he got in a month were gold-grade items, and the star brilliance was a frequent occurrence as well. Chu Kuangren felt so good that he could fly to the heavens. Use the Alchemist Experience card. Chu Kuangren took out the card and crushed it. A ray of light entered Chu Kuangren's mind, and suddenly, a large amount of information about alchemy burst out. In the blink of an eye, he had turned from a rookie who knew little about pills into a rare alchemy grandmaster. Alchemy, this is a good skill. Chu Kuangren smiled after he finished absorbing the memories in his mind. In the world of cultivation, there were all kinds of cultivation resources, and alchemy was undoubtedly one of the most popular ones. Skilled alchemists were often sought after by the orthodoxies, and they were popular wherever they went. In the Black Heaven sect, there was an elixir pavilion that specialized in cultivating alchemists. The alchemy used by the Black Heaven sect's disciples all came from there, so it was very important in the sect. Now that I've mastered this skill, if I don't find a place to use it, it'll be like walking in the dark with no one watching, Chu Kuangren murmured. Then, unable to suppress the excitement in his heart, he left the Taoist palace and went straight to the elixir pavilion. Inside the elixir pavilion, the fire was strong, and the fragrance of medicine filled the air. A group of alchemists came and went, and it was quiet but busy. It was Chu Kuangren's first time here, so he looked around curiously. Hey, it's Elder Senior Brother. An alchemy disciple noticed Chu Kuangren and could not help but let out a soft cry. The others heard him and looked over. It really is Elder Senior Brother. Why is he here at the elixir pavilion? Is he here to collect medicinal pills? That can't be right. The medicinal pills are distributed to the disciples on time every month, and why would Elder Senior Brother lack medicinal pills? A steward in charge of the elixir pavilion quickly greeted him and smiled. Welcome, lead disciple. What brings you here? Chu Kuangren smiled. I recently had a sudden idea to refine some medicinal pills, so I came here. By the way, where's the fifth elder? The fifth elder was the person in charge of the elixir pavilion. However, Chu Kuangren did not see him after looking around. The fifth elder went out. I heard that he found Master Gujiang in the Black Heaven sect's territory, so he went to invite him. Oh, Master Gujiang? Yes, he's one of the top alchemy masters in Firmament Star. He usually travels around, so the fifth elder invited him as a guest. At the mention of Gujiang, the steward had a yearning look in his eyes. In Firmament Star, those who were given the title of master were all great figures who had reached the pinnacle of a certain field. Alchemy masters, craftsmanship masters, formation masters, and so on. Each of these people were highly sought after by the orthodoxies. Even sage orthodoxies might not have them. I see. Chu Kuangren nodded. Lead disciple, are there any spare alchemy rooms? Yes, are there any spare alchemy rooms? Yes, there are. The steward nodded. If Chu Kuangren wanted to refine medicinal pills, he would build another one even if there was no spare room. The steward led Chu Kuangren to an alchemy room. Lead disciple, what kind of medicinal pills are you looking to refine? I'll get someone to prepare it for you. I have a pill recipe here. Just get the ingredients according to the recipe. Chu Kuangren took out a pill recipe and handed it to the steward. This pill recipe was a gold-grade item that he had won a few days ago. It was a good chance for him to try it out today. The steward took the pill recipe and glanced at it. He was stunned. Pill of Sorrow? It was the first time he had heard of this name. When he looked at the ingredients on the recipe, he could not help but be even more surprised. Each of these ingredients was extremely valuable. Is this really your first time refining medicinal pills? Yes, is there a problem? No, I was just curious. The steward was even more confused. He dares to use so many precious ingredients on his first time refining pills? This is too much of a nerve. Forget it, he's the lead disciple after all. Even his position and prestige in Black Heaven sect were not lower than Honorable Shen Qi's. How could a small steward like him dare to disobey him? Soon, the steward arranged the ingredients for Chu Kuangren. Chapter 121. I heard Elder Senior Brother is here to perform alchemy. What? Elder Senior Brother knows how to perform alchemy? Tisk tiske, even if Elder Senior Brother says he's an alchemy grandmaster, I'd believe him. You're too blind. Elder Senior Brother is indeed powerful, but alchemy is a technical skill. Without years of experience, even a genius can't easily become an alchemist. That's right. Elder Senior Brother is talented, but he must have spent most of his time on cultivation. How would he have the time to perform alchemy? I guess he's just curious. Probably. Everyone in the alchemy pavilion was curious about Chu Kuangren's sudden arrival. and they were even more surprised when they learned that he was here to perform alchemy. Inside the alchemy room, many of the alchemy pavilion's disciples were gathered outside. They craned their necks to see how Chu Kuangren would perform alchemy. At that moment, the door opened and the administrator walked out. "Why are you all gathered here? Don't you have to work? Go do what you need to do," the administrator said angrily. "Head Deacon, aren't we all curious? Tell us, what pill is eldest senior brother planning to refine?" One of the disciples asked curiously. "I'm not sure either. It's called the pill of melancholy. Have any of you heard of it?" The administrator asked. However, all the disciples were at a loss. "I'm familiar with the 1,000 Herb scripture, but I've never heard of a pill called the pill of melancholy." "Yeah, could it be a pill recorded in an unofficial history book?" "No way." Just as the crowd was discussing, Chu Kuangren had already started to perform alchemy in the alchemy room. After merging with the alchemist experience card, Chu Kuangren's alchemy skills had reached the highest level in the world. The moment he started to perform alchemy, it was as if he had repeated it thousands of times. Every movement was smooth and natural. As the ingredients decreased, the pill in the cauldron gradually took shape, and a unique pill chi emanated from it. Outside the door, the disciples could smell the pill chi in the air. "It smells so good. Is this a pill fragrance?" "It's a pill fragrance. Only top-tier pills can have a pill fragrance. Is this really Elder Senior Brother's first time performing alchemy? This pill fragrance is so unique. I've never heard of it before." Woo-woo! Suddenly, a sobbing sound came from the crowd. Everyone looked over and saw a young disciple sobbing. "Why are you crying?" someone asked curiously. "I just suddenly recalled some sad memories." Hearing this, everyone could not help but sigh. To be able to make a 7-foot man cry in public, it must have been a sad past that he couldn't bear to recall. Something was not right. "Why did you think of it now?" As the pill fragrance in the air became thicker and thicker, everyone felt their noses tingle and all kinds of sad memories surged in their minds. Sob, 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 I'm unfilial. I joined the Black Heaven sect at the age of 12 and have only returned to my hometown a few times in the past 10 years. I'm unfilial. That's nothing. I've been cultivating for 10 years, and I'm still hovering around the foundation establishment stage. In the pill pavilion, my cultivation level is the lowest. I don't have the face to see anyone. Bull. Don't stop me. Just let me die. Don't. There are so many people out there who haven't even reached the foundation realm. What are you crying for? Boo-hoo, I'm the one who's miserable. When I left the village, I told Chui Hua that I would marry her once I became successful, but when I went back, her child already knows how to buy soy sauce. Brother, stay strong. Which one of you is more miserable than me? Yesterday, De Huang, who had been by my side for 10 years, passed away. I fed him until he was young, but he left me just like that. I'm in so much pain. I miss senior sister so much. Although I failed to confess to her a year ago, I can't forget her even after a year, boo-hoo. I've lived for so long, but I'm still a virgin. I'm so sad. Outside the alchemy room, the group of Pill Pavilion disciples were crying their hearts out. The air was filled with a sorrowful atmosphere. Outside the Pill Pavilion, 2 old men walked in talking and laughing. Grandmaster Gujiang, it's really a blessing for my Black Heaven sect to have you as a guest, the 5th elder said with a laugh. Gujiang smiled. You're too kind, 5th elder. The Black Heaven sect is a sage orthodoxy. How could I not come when you invited me? You're too humble, Master Gujiang. Oh right, there's a group of good-for-nothing disciples in the Pill Pavilion. You should give them some guidance when you're free. Of course, of course. It's settled then. By the way, I heard that the Black Heaven sect's lead disciple, Chu Kuangren, is very impressive. If it's possible, I'd like to meet him. That's easy. The 5th elder and Master Gujiang walked into the Pill Pavilion. As soon as they entered, they smelled a unique pill fragrance. Since the Pill Pavilion was a place for alchemy, it was not unusual for it to have pill fragrance. However, this pill fragrance was very unique. Master Gujiang had been immersed in alchemy for thousands of years. He had seen all kinds of medicinal pills, but he had never smelled this pill fragrance before. What kind of medicinal pill is this? Master Gujiang could not help but wonder. I don't know either. The 5th elder was a little confused as well. He knew all the kinds of medicinal pills that the alchemists in the Pill Pavilion could refine, but this pill fragrance was definitely not refined by someone from the Pill Pavilion. Then who could it be? Unable to hold back their curiosity, the 2 of them followed the pill fragrance. However, the closer they got to the source of the pill fragrance, the more they felt their noses sting and their eyes watering. It was a feeling of sorrow. This pill fragrance can trigger the sorrow in one's heart? What a unique medicinal pill. The fifth elder and Master Gujiang's cultivation level was not weak. Moreover, it was just a pill fragrance, so they channeled their spiritual power to resist it. Soon the two of them could hear the sound of many people crying. When they came to the outside of an alchemy room, they saw a group of pill pavilion disciples wailing. The fifth elder and Master Gujiang looked at each other, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. The power of this medicinal pill is really extraordinary. Yeah. The fifth elder walked up to the manager and asked, "What's going on? Who's the one refining the pills in this alchemy room?" The manager's eyes were red from crying, and his nose was dripping. When he saw the fifth elder, he sobbed, It's the lead disciple." Lead disciple? Chu Kuangren? How does he know alchemy? And he's even refining such a strange pill. The fifth elder was puzzled. Just as he was puzzled, a surge of pill chi suddenly rose from the alchemy room. It gathered the spiritual chi and formed a golden pill cloud. Supreme pill. Master Gujiang suddenly exclaimed. There were different grades and grades of pills. Among them, pills that could be classified as supreme grade were collectively known as supreme pills. Even if it was the lowest grade pill, refining it into a supreme pill was a test of the alchemist's ability. However, Master Gujiang's surprise was not over yet. After a pill cloud formed, another pill cloud gathered in the sky. Soon there were 9 pill clouds in the sky. The golden pill clouds hovered in the sky, emitting auspicious light. An extremely mysterious Taoist rhyme filled the air, moving everyone's expression. Master Gujiang was already dumbfounded. His face was filled with disbelief. 9 pill clouds. A 9th grade supreme pill. 9 was the extreme number. A 9th grade supreme pill was the highest quality pill known in the world. Even Master Gujiang could not refine it. Grandmaster. Chapter 122. Fifth Elder, quickly tell me which great master is inside. Grandmaster Gu tugged at the fifth elder's clothes excitedly. This was an alchemy grandmaster. He had traveled all over the firmament star, visiting all the famous alchemy masters, but he had yet to meet a single grandmaster even after so long. Who would have thought that they would meet here? Grandmaster Gu, calm down. How can I calm down? This is a great grandmaster. The person inside is the lead disciple of my Black Heaven sect, Chu Kuangren. *T, isn't Chu Kuangren a genius cultivator? How did you become an alchemy grandmaster? Are you messing with me? The fifth elder's head was also full of question marks. How was he supposed to know how to refine pills? At this moment, the door to the alchemy room creaked open. Then Chu Kuangren walked out from inside and said, I've used up all of those medicinal ingredients. Can I trouble you guys too? Before he could even finish his sentence, Chu Kuangren was stunned to see a bunch of Elixir Pavilion's disciples crying their eyes out. *CK, what's going on? He already had some guesses in his heart. Was the pill of melancholy so powerful? Just the pill fragrance alone had such power. If it was taken by someone, wouldn't that person cry to death? It really is the chief disciple. The fifth elder's face was filled with astonishment. When Grandmaster Gu next to him saw the door open, he quickly rushed in and searched inside, but he couldn't see anyone. Where did the Grandmaster go? What great master? Chu Kuangren asked with a frown. Is the person who concocted the pill just now. I've been the only one in this room since the beginning. I was the one who performed the alchemy just now. Chu Kuangren chuckled. He knew that the person in front of him was Gujiang, the renowned alchemy master of Firmament Star. What you? Gujiang circled around Chu Kuangren twice with a face full of suspicion. You're Chu Kuangren? Yes. You look just like the rumors. Was it really you who was concocting pills here just now? Gujiang's eyes were filled with doubt. Yes. Chu Kuangren nodded. Can you refine it again for me to see? Whether it was real or fake, he would know once he tested it. Chu Kuangren did not reject the offer. After all, the purpose of his trip to the Elixir Pavilion was to test his alchemy skills. He had just started and wanted to practice for a while longer. Then he called someone to bring new medicinal ingredients and began to refine pills. Gujiang watched from the side. His expression changed from suspicion at the beginning to solemnity and then to shock. In the end, his mouth was wide open and he was dumbfounded. The fifth elder beside him was no better than Gujiang. As he watched Chu Kuangren perform alchemy, he felt that it was a little too far-fetched. He had never heard that Chu Kuangren knew alchemy before, so how did he become an alchemy grandmaster in the blink of an eye? Boom! A burst of Dan Qi soared into the sky, once again condensing into 9 golden Dan clouds. This meant that this was another batch of 9th grade Supreme Dan. Great Grandmaster. He's definitely a great Grandmaster. Gu Jiang regained his senses and looked at Chu Kuangren with a face full of passion. Without another word, he immediately rushed towards Chu Kuangren and knelt on the ground. Master, please accept me as your disciple. The Elixir Pavilion disciples outside the alchemy room were all dumbfounded. What did they see? An alchemy grandmaster was kneeling in front of their elder senior brother, begging to be his disciple? *CKME, this world is crazy. Senior, please don't do this. Chu Kuangren was also shocked and quickly helped Gu Jiang up. However, Gu Jiang's knees seemed to be glued to the floor. No matter how Chu Kuangren tried to pull him up, he would not get up. He stubbornly said, if Master doesn't accept me as his disciple, I won't get up. *CKME, he's trying to blackmail me. Chu Kuangren looked at Gu Jiang in shock. Is this really the world-renowned alchemy grandmaster? Master Gu Jiang, what are you doing? The 5th elder was also shocked and quickly came up to persuade him. 5th elder, you don't have to persuade me. The grandmaster realm is my lifelong goal. I've immersed myself in alchemy for thousands of years, but I've never been able to achieve it. Now that I've finally seen hope, I won't give up. Gu Jiang said with a determined look. Alchemy was too important to him. The status and achievements he had today were all because of alchemy. His cultivation potential was not good, so he could only enter the Tao through alchemy. As long as he could advance further in alchemy, he would do anything. Senior Gu Jiang, if you like to kneel, then you can keep kneeling. Goodbye, Chu Kuangren said calmly. In fact, it was not impossible for him to teach Gu Jiang, but he was a little displeased with Gu Jiang's behavior. Do you think kneeling will make me accept you as my disciple? If I don't accept you, why won't you get up? Am I forcing you or am I forcing you? It was a threat in disguise. Chu Kuangren was not interested in such behavior, so he turned around and left. When the Elixir Pavilion's disciples saw that, their respect for Chu Kuangren grew like a surging river. How prestigious would it be to have an alchemy grandmaster as a disciple? But what about our elder senior brother? No? If you want me to accept you, then I won't. I don't care if you're an alchemy grandmaster, I won't even give a damn about you. This? Master Chu, wait up. Gu Jiang could no longer kneel. He quickly got up and chased after Chu Kuangren anxiously. Chu Kuangren looked at him. What? You're not kneeling anymore? Gu Jiang blushed and said, please forgive me, Master Chu. I was indeed rude just now. Please don't take it to heart. He also came to realize that his behavior just now was indeed a little forceful. Senior Gu Jiang, if it's just an alchemy exchange, I'll welcome you anytime. However, I don't think I'll accept you as my disciple. Chu Kuangren let out a faint smile and left. Gu Jiang was stunned. He did not know whether to chase after Chu Kuangren or not. Master Gu Jiang, the lead disciple, lives in the Towering Heaven Palace. We'll have plenty of opportunities to exchange alchemy in the future. The 5th elder walked up and said. Gu Jiang glared at him when he heard that. 5th elder, this is not nice of you. You invited me to the Black Heaven sect as a guest, but you didn't tell me that there's an alchemy grandmaster here. That's rude of me. Now that I've offended Master Chu, what do you want me to do? Let me tell you this. If Master Chu has a grudge against me because of this, I'll be the first to deal with you. Gu Jiang was not angry at all. If he knew that there was an alchemy grandmaster in the Black Heaven sect, he would have made more preparations before coming. At least he would not have left such a terrible first impression like he did just now. The 5th elder looked innocent and said, I didn't know that the lead disciple was so capable. Gu Jiang could not be bothered to talk to him anymore. He turned around and walked out of the alchemy pavilion. Hey Master Gu Jiang, where are you going? I'm going to look for your sect leader. Why would I look for him? He doesn't know alchemy. I want to join the Black Heaven sect. The 5th elder's eyes lit up when he heard that. Gu Jiang was an alchemy grandmaster. If he was willing to join the Black Heaven sect, it would be a great thing. Chapter 123. Towering Heaven Palace. Chu Kuangren looked at Gu Jiang and sighed. So you joined the Black Heaven sect so that you could be my disciple? Please teach me. Gu Jiang bowed. Beside him, Honorable Shen Qi, Elder Rian, and the others looked at Chu Kuangren in surprise. They did not expect him to know alchemy. Moreover, he could even convince a grandmaster like Gu Jiang willingly. Chu Kuangren was giving them more and more surprises. Kuangren, for the sake of Master Gu Jiang's sincerity, you can teach him. Honorable Shen Qi smiled. Chu Kuangren said, I can teach him but not as a master. Yes, teacher. Jianghu was delighted. Didn't I say I won't accept disciples? Teacher, you misunderstand. Although you won't accept me as a disciple, you shouldn't reject me as a teacher. All right then. Chu Kuangren nodded. Just like that, the Towering Heaven Palace had another frequent visitor. Jianghu would visit the Taoist palace every few days to ask for advice, and his joining of the Black Heaven sect had greatly improved the sect's foundation. After all, he was still an alchemy master. These days, Honorable Xian Qi could often be seen smiling and mumbling about how Chu Kuangren was his lucky star. Chu Kuangren lived a peaceful life for a period of time. However, there was always someone who did not let him live so comfortably. Today, outside the Towering Heaven Palace, a handsome young man dressed in white came to visit. It was said that he was from the winged human tribe and wanted to bring Lan Yu back. Chu Kuangren looked at the person in front of him and frowned. Brother Chu, I'm Yen Bo of the winged human tribe. I'm here to ask you to allow Lan Yu to return to our tribe and acknowledge her ancestors. Before Chu Kuangren could speak, the handsome young man Yen Bo spoke first. Chu Kuangren rolled his eyes in his mind. Lan Yu was created by the fantasy roulette from the lottery draw. Although she was from the winged human tribe, she had no direct relationship with the winged human tribe. What was he asking her to return to? What tribe? However, this was not the case to outsiders, so Chu Kuangren did not say it out loud. He looked at Lan Yu as if asking for her opinion. Aside from being by your side, I will not go anywhere else, Lan Yu said firmly. Chu Kuangren smiled and looked at Yen Bo. Fellow feather, you heard her. Lan Yu doesn't want to go back. Lan Yu, this time you must go back. Yen Bo was still unwilling to give up, his face filled with anxiety. Chu Kuangren frowned slightly, feeling that something was not right. This time? Did he look for you many times before? The latter question was directed at Lan Yu. Lan Yu nodded slightly. Why didn't you tell me? It's just an insignificant matter. I don't dare to disturb young master. How is your matter unimportant? Next time something like this happens, remember not to hide it from me. Chu Kuangren said helplessly. Lan Yu pursed his lips and nodded. Yes, master. Yen Bo watched from the side. He felt that the two of them did not seem to have a simple master-servant relationship, but he did not think too much about it. He continued, Lan Yu, this concerns the survival of the winged human tribe. Please come back with me. The survival of the winged human tribe has nothing to do with me. Besides, don't you still have Zhu Tianlan? Can't you ask him to help? The Zhu Tianlan that Lan Yu mentioned was the young emperor of the winged human tribe, an ancient sky pride from 40,000 years ago. He had looked for her a few times before, and his combat strength was not much weaker than hers. This time, even the young emperor can't do anything. Only you can save the winged human tribe because you're the only one with the scepter of light. Yen Bo said and continued to tell her what had happened. It turned out that the ancestors of the winged human tribe were once trusted aides of the sage ruler of light. Later on, the sage ruler of light granted the winged human tribe a territory, allowing them to spread their roots and establish the winged human tribe. However, the truth was that the winged human tribe had an important mission. There was a demonic well in their territory that led to the underworld demonic realm. The winged human tribe's mission was to suppress the demonic well and prevent the demonic creatures from coming out. However, the demonic well had recently become restless, and the formation that suppressed the demonic well was damaged for unknown reasons. Now, only the sage ruler weapon, the scepter of light, could repair the formation and suppress the demonic well. The fact that you're able to obtain the scepter of light means that it's God's will. Lan Yu, follow me back to the winged human tribe and suppress the demonic well. With your talent and the scepter, you'll become the leader of the winged human tribe in the future. Yen Bo tried to move him with emotion and reason. Chu Kuangren did not expect the winged human tribe to have such a relationship with the sage ruler of light. In that case, the reason why the scepter of light chose Lan Yu was not only because of her holy radiant physique, but also because of her identity as a winged human. Then let's go. While Lan Yu was hesitating, Chu Kuangren had already made up his mind. Master. After all, it's been a while since I've gone out for a walk. Besides, I'm a little interested in seeing the demonic well. Chu Kuangren chuckled. The underworld demonic realm was a term that Chu Kuangren had repeatedly seen in the ancient books. He had also seen some records about the demonic realm. For example, the school of White Lotus's ancestor, the White Lotus sage ruler, had once suppressed a demonic beast from the underworld and established a sage orthodoxy. Then I'll listen to you, master, Lan Yu said. All right. Thank you, brother Chu. Yen Bo was overjoyed. It turned out that he had been trying to persuade the wrong person. If he had known, he would have persuaded Chu Kuangren instead. When Honorable Xian Qi heard that Chu Kuangren wanted to go to the winged human tribe's territory, he did not object. Then Chu Kuangren departed. The seventh forefather and the other two protectors also followed him on his journey. After 3 years, the three protectors had something to do again. The three of them gathered in the void and greeted each other. "Brother Qinglan, long time no see. You're still as elegant as ever." The seventh forefather looked at Honorable Qinglan and laughed. "Brother Shenqi, how have you been? Brother Meng, you look younger." At that moment, the seventh forefather looked at the old lady from the Royal Azure Dynasty and said in surprise. Old Lady Meng smiled and said, "The Dynasty King has given me a supreme elixir, which allowed me to extend my lifespan and continue to protect the fiancé." "Well, congratulations, congratulations. How can I compare to Brother Shenqi? I heard that you've gone through heavenly deterioration stage 5 and returned to your peak with the help of a life extension pill. I'm really envious of you," Old Lady Meng said enviously. After going through heavenly deterioration stage 5, one was basically waiting for death. There were very few people like the seventh forefather who could return to their peak. It's all thanks to this little guy. He's now an alchemy grandmaster. Perhaps you can ask him to refine a batch of life extension pills for you," the seventh forefather suggested. Old Lady Meng was a little tempted. "Let's talk about this another time." "All right." The few protectors were chatting in the void. From their point of view, with Chu Kuangren's current cultivation and strength, as long as an honorable was not involved, they would not be needed. However, how many honorables were there in Firmament Star? Chapter 124. Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu followed Yen Bo to the winged human tribe. Along the way they learned a lot about the winged human tribe. For example, the winged human tribe was divided into two factions. One faction was led by the current winged human tribe leader, while the other was led by the awakened ancient sky pride, Zhu Tianlan. Although these two factions did not have any conflicts on the surface, they were secretly competing with each other. Yen Bo belonged to the winged human tribe leader's faction. Aside from wanting to save the winged human tribe, he also wanted to recruit Lan Yu and find a sky pride that could compete with Zhu Tianlan. Chu Kuangren was not surprised by this situation. The awakening of an ancient sky pride was good news for some factions, but it would also affect the internal factions. Especially for an honorable orthodoxy like the winged human tribe, which was not as strong as the sage orthodoxy. They needed a supreme sky pride to lead their orthodoxy to the next level. However, this ancient sky pride had been in hibernation for many years and did not have deep feelings for the orthodoxy, so it was natural that he had to bear a certain amount of risk. Soon, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu arrived at the winged human tribe's territory. It was a huge city with unique buildings. Most of them were dome-shaped and white in color. People came and went in the city. Besides the winged human tribe, there were also many foreign merchants and cultivators. It was very lively. When they arrived at the center of the city, there was a white palace with armored guards patrolling the place. The security was very tight. "Lan Yu, you're finally here." When they arrived at the palace, a handsome middle-aged man in a white robe with white hair greeted them. This middle-aged man was the current winged human tribe leader. "Greetings, tribe leader." Lan Yu bowed slightly. No matter how much she did not want to return to the winged human tribe, she still felt a sense of familiarity when she saw so many people from the same tribe. Behind the winged human tribe leader, there were many elders and young talents in the tribe. All of them looked at Lan Yu curiously. After all, it was strange that a supreme Taoist physique had suddenly appeared in their tribe without anyone knowing about it. Not to mention that this tribe member wielded the Scepter of Light, which was a supreme authority recorded in their tribe's ancient books. However, it did not take long before everyone's attention was drawn to Chu Kuangren, who was standing beside Lan Yu. Each and every one of them was stunned. Even in the winged human tribe, which was full of handsome men and beautiful women, Chu Kuangren's appearance and temperament were still exceptionally outstanding. No one could match him. Who is this person? Is he also a winged person? No, he doesn't have the aura of a winged person. But he looks even better than us winged humans. He came here with Lan Yu. I know he's Chu Kuangren. It should be him. The group of winged humans discussed in hushed tones. While they were sizing up Chu Kuangren, he was also sizing them up. It was said that apart from producing handsome men and beautiful women, the winged human tribe was also skilled in combat. He took a look and found that all of them had a kind of valiant aura about them. Those pampered prodigies couldn't be compared to them. Apart from that, he also noticed that even though Lan Yu was from the winged people tribe, Her appearance was slightly different from an ordinary winged people. Ordinary winged people, including the lord of the winged people tribe, were no different from ordinary people other than having an extra pair of wings. Lan Yu, on the other hand, had long silver hair, sapphire eyes, and a holy aura. All of these made her stand out among the group of winged people, making her exceptionally attractive. Chu Kuangren smirked, feeling an inexplicable sense of pride in his heart. As expected, my Lan Yu is the prettiest no matter where she goes. You must be Elder Senior Brother Black Heaven. The Lord of the Winged People tribe walked up to Chu Kuangren and bowed slightly. Greetings, Lord. You're welcome, Brother Chu. I've already prepared a banquet to welcome all of you. The Lord of the Winged People tribe smiled. The banquet was held in the palace. All the elders and sky prides of the Winged People tribe were present, including the young Emperor Zhu Tianlan. As a winged people, Zhu Tianlan's appearance was needless to say. Among all the people Chu Kuangren had met, he was definitely the most handsome. Of course, that was except for him. Zhu Tianlan was also very surprised. He took a few more glances at Chu Kuangren during the banquet. He did not expect there to be a man more handsome than him in this world. At that thought, Zhu Tianlan felt a little uncomfortable. Especially when he saw how docile and obedient Lan Yu was next to Chu Kuangren, he felt a surge of anger in his heart. After all, when he went to look for Lan Yu, she treated him coldly. Where was the gentleness she showed to Chu Kuangren? Lan Yu, it's great that you've thought things through and returned to the Winged People tribe. If you and I work together, we can definitely bring the Winged People tribe to new heights. Let me propose a toast to you. Zhu Tianlan suppressed his jealousy towards Chu Kuangren and raised his glass at Lan Yu with a smile. However, Lan Yu did not raise her glass. Instead, she said, I came to the Winged People tribe to solve the problem of the demonic well. Once I'm done, I'll leave. Leading the Winged People tribe will be up to you and the Lord. His words made all the elders present reveal strange expressions. We'll talk about Lan Yu later. She's right, we should focus on stabilizing the demonic well first. Sensing the tense atmosphere in the banquet, the Lord of the Winged People tribe quickly tried to smooth things over. After the banquet ended, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu stayed in the palace for the night. The next day they set off for their destination, the demonic well. The so-called demonic well was not a real well but a spatial crack. It was called the demonic well because it was connected to the underworld demonic realm. The demonic well that the Winged People tribe guarded was on an altar in the palace, guarded by 4 stone pillars that were engraved with runes. These stone pillars contained the power of the former sage ruler of light. However, for some unknown reason, that power had been greatly weakened, which was why the sage ruler's former weapon, the scepter of light, was needed to restore it. Lan Yu, I'm sorry to trouble you. One of the Winged People tribe elders looked at Lan Yu and said solemnly. He was the guardian of this altar, but it was said that a few days ago, there was a problem with the altar's formation, causing the demonic well to become restless. He was severely injured while trying to suppress the well, and he had yet to fully recover. As for how to restore the formation's power, he had already told Lan Yu about it on the way here. Alright, I'll do my best. Lan Yu nodded. Then in a flash she spread her wings and flew onto the altar. She took out the scepter of light, and a surge of holy light aura emanated from her body, causing everyone present to be moved. That's the scepter of light, the former weapon of the sage ruler. It's said that this scepter symbolizes the supreme authority of the Winged People tribe. Whoever holds the scepter can command the entire Winged People tribe. That's only because our ancestors respected the sage ruler of light. However, this scepter is a sage ruler weapon, so it's true that it's extremely powerful. That's right. All the Winged People, including the Lord of the Winged People tribe, stared at the scepter of light in Lan Yu's hand with a fiery gaze. Chu Kuangren frowned as he watched from the side. A sage ruler weapon was enough to tempt a sage orthodoxy, not to mention the symbolic significance of the scepter of light to the Winged People tribe. Would these people really let Lan Yu leave so easily? Chapter 125. On the altar, the scepter in Lan Yu's hand shone brightly. Divine light filled the air. However, the chief of the Winged Men tribe gradually realized that something was amiss. This was because the power of the formation on the altar did not increase at all. On the contrary, it was still weakening. What's going on? The chief of the Winged Men tribe's expression changed, and he quickly looked at the elder who was guarding the altar. However, she saw that he was full of smiles and was not surprised at all. Third elder, what's going on? The chief of the winged humans questioned. What's going on? As you can see, the spell formation is about to disappear. The devil realm will descend today. The third elder laughed out loud, his face filled with excitement. "Take him down," the chief of the winged men tribe shouted coldly. The third elder's body exploded with a strong power, directly blasting away the guards who were rushing toward him from all directions. Then a pair of black wings unfurled from the third elder's back. Everyone's faces sank when they saw this. Fallen Wing. Third elder actually became a member of the Fallen Wing clan. Damn it, what's going on? This is all part of the third elder's scheme. Damn it. Chu Kuangren activated his Eye of Revelation to check on the third elder's information. Third elder, Zhu Xian, supreme martial artist cultivation, fallen winged race, a race of the demon world that the winged human race transformed into after being corroded by demonic energy. Oh no, stop Lan Yu! The chief of the winged human tribe shouted. But it was too late. Suddenly, a black gas erupted from the altar. The powerful impact sent Lan Yu flying off the altar. Chu Kuangren's figure flashed and caught it. Are you alright? I'm fine, but I failed. Lan Yu frowned. I followed the elder's instructions and did not make any mistakes. Why is the power of the array decreasing instead of increasing? Haha, that's because what I'm teaching you isn't the method to restore the power of the array formation, but to reverse the array formation. The third elder laughed loudly. On the altar, black smoke billowed into the sky. A pitch-black hole appeared in the sky, and a terrifying demonic chi seeped out from it, causing everyone's hearts to palpitate. This is the devil's well. Damn it. The array formation has disappeared. The demonic well has reappeared. One figure after another rushed out of the well. These people all had black wings and emitted a powerful aura. The Fallen Winged Clan. The chief of the Winged Clan said through gritted teeth. The winged human tribe had been guarding the demonic well for many years, and many of their tribesmen had been corrupted by the demonic chi. These tribesmen had betrayed the winged human tribe and fled to the demon realm of hell. Over time they had become the Fallen Winged Human Tribe. It could be said that the Winged Human Tribe and the Fallen Winged Human Tribe were irreconcilable enemies. Now that they had met, both sides were on the verge of a fight. Haha, after so many years the demonic well spell formation has finally disappeared. A black-haired man among the Fallen Winged Tribe laughed loudly. This person was the current clan leader of the Fallen Winged Tribe. He wore a set of black armor and held a long spear in his hand. His aura was extremely domineering. Lan Yu, go and reactivate the formation. Use the method third elder taught you in reverse, the chief of the Winged Human Tribe said. All right. Lan Yu nodded and flew towards the altar again. However, there was no way the Fallen Winged Humans would let her have her way so easily. A few fallen winged humans charged towards her as demonic aura and Taoist rhymes erupted at the same time. Trying to restore the spell formation? In your dreams. However, as soon as these people got close to Lan Yu, they were killed by several sword chi. It was Chu Kuangren who had made his move. Lan Yu once again arrived at the altar without any obstructions. With the scepter of light in her hand, her Taoist rhymes circulated and activated the spell formation on the altar. The chief of the Fallen Winged Human Tribe said coldly, kill that female winged human with everything you have. We must not let her reactivate the spell formation. Yes. A large number of fallen winged humans charged towards Lan Yu. The chief of the Winged Human Tribe and the others naturally would not sit idly by. Your opponents are us. Traitors of the Winged Human Tribe, die. In the sky, black and white wings intertwined, initiating a battle between black and white. A large amount of Taoist rhymes spread, spiritual powers collided, and feathers fell from the sky. A terrifying aura covered half the sky. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren stood at the edge of the altar. He could not care less about the battle in the sky as he focused on protecting Lan Yu. Anyone who dared to get close to Lan Yu was mercilessly killed by him. Whether it was a nascent soul cultivator or a paradise realm cultivator, they were no match for him. Boom. A pitch-black giant hand with a surge of Taoist rhyme blasted out as if it was going to crush the void. An honorable's poise locked onto Chu Kuangren. Facing this attack, Chu Kuangren's expression turned serious. He held the Descendant Self-Sword in his hand and unleashed a blinding purple sword chi. When the sword chi and the giant hand collided, a terrifying shockwave swept out in all directions. The horrifying power caused the ground to crack and the void to tremble. Not far away, the third elder's expression changed. I can't believe this person's combat strength is so terrifying that he can block my attack. Although he did injure himself for the sake of putting on a show, his attack was still not something an ordinary honorable could block. He did not expect a battle monarch like Chu Kuangren to have such combat strength. Seventh forefather, watch over Lan Yu. Chu Kuangren said to the void. He then looked at the third elder with a glint in his eyes as the sword-based Taoist rhyme on his body gradually increased. Ever since I came out of my closed-door meditation, I've never used my full strength. I wonder how much of my strength you, an honorable, can force me to use? Chu Kuangren, this has nothing to do with you. If you leave now, you might be able to keep your life. Otherwise you'll die for sure. The third elder said coldly. The invasion of the demonic realm concerns the lives of the common people. How can this have nothing to do with me? Besides, you're going to harm my people. Chu Kuangren's expression was cold as he twirled the sacred sword in his hand and a chilling Taoist rhyme gushed out. The sword of the heavens and the green lotus sword song were unleashed. What a terrifying aura. Is he really just a battle monarch? The third elder's eyes shrunk in disbelief. However, what shocked him even more was that Chu Kuangren had unleashed his battle monarch domain. The terrifying domain energy even made him, an honorable, feel pressured. Is he a *King battle monarch? How could a battle monarch have such combat strength? The third elder felt a sense of fear. As an honorable, he might be able to put up a fight if he was at his peak. However, his injured body could only allow him to unleash less than half of his strength. This battle might be a little risky. What, are you afraid now? Chu Kuangren could not help but chuckle when he saw the third elder's hesitation. Cultivation was not only about one's Taoist skills but also one's Taoist core. The third elder was afraid before the battle even began. Chu Kuangren had already gained the upper hand in this battle. Before his opponent could even open his mouth, Chu Kuangren had already unleashed a sword attack. A terrifying sword ray covered the sky. The Taoist rhyme contained within it was so powerful that it seemed like it could destroy everything in the world. Heaven-slaying sword drawing technique. The third elder's expression changed when he saw this terrifying sword Dao technique. He waved both his hands and unleashed a palm attack. The violent energy formed into a giant palm print. When the two energies collided, a huge explosion erupted and dust billowed. The third elder was forced back a few hundred feet. Suddenly he felt a sense of fear. He did not know when Chu Kuangren had appeared behind him. As the sword slashed down, the sharp sword chi caused his hair to stand on end. The third elder tried his best to dodge, but he was still not fast enough. Chapter 126. The third elder's scream attracted the attention of many people. When everyone looked over, they saw the third elder falling from the sky with a broken wing. He was bleeding profusely, and his face was as pale as a sheet. Chu Kuangren grabbed one of the wings and slowly descended from the sky. He looked at the wing in his hand and smiled. I wonder if this can be used to make grilled wings. Too bad I can't seem to find cumin anywhere. He then tossed the wing onto the ground and glared at the third elder coldly. The battle monarch domain was still suppressing him. Everyone, be it the fallen winged human or the winged human, was shocked. They looked at Chu Kuangren with fear. After all, the third elder was an honorable. Even if he was not at his peak state, he was still an honorable. The fact that Chu Kuangren could easily injure the third elder proved that his strength was not to be underestimated. More importantly, he was still very young and was only a battle monarch. How powerful would he become when he grew? Even I can't say that I can easily defeat the third elder, but he did it. Chu Kuangren is indeed a formidable opponent. The winged human young emperor Zhu Tianlan had a solemn look on his face. Initially, he did not believe that Chu Kuangren could defeat 5 young emperors by himself. However, it seemed that it was true. Save me. The third elder shouted at the fallen winged human leader. However, the fallen winged human leader was currently occupied by the winged human leader. Both of them were honorable supremes, so they were in a stalemate. As for the others, they had their own opponents to deal with as well. Save you? Who has the ability to save you? Chu Kuangren chuckled and raised his sword, ready to end his opponent. However, at that moment, the demonic well on the altar suddenly erupted with an extremely terrifying aura, and a terrifying domineering aura poured out. All the cultivators at the scene were shocked. They felt that their Dao techniques were being suppressed, and it was difficult for them to use them. Even the honorable supremes felt the same. This feeling is the Emperor's aura. Zhu Tianlan suddenly screamed as his body trembled. Everyone who heard him was shocked as they looked at the demonic well. An emperor? Could it be an emperor from the demonic realm this time? That's impossible. With the size and strength of this demonic well, even a sage can't pass through it, let alone an emperor. The chief of the winged human tribe said loudly. The rest of the powerhouses agreed with this statement as well. It would not be easy for a powerhouse from another realm to descend upon the firmament star. Did they really think that the world barrier was just a decoration? But my senses can't be wrong. This pressure is on the same level as the Emperor Qi in my body. It's definitely the pressure of the Emperor Dao. Moreover, our Dao techniques are being suppressed by this oppressive might. Isn't this the legendary One Emperor suppressing all laws? Zhu Tianlan continued. He had the primordial Emperor's essence, so he had some understanding of the Emperor's aura. Moreover, the fact that the One Emperor suppresses all laws was right in front of them. The other experts were also confused. Could it really be an Emperor descending? Everyone stared at the well as a middle-aged man in a luxurious black robe walked out. The man had a high-nosed bridge, long and narrow eyebrows, and an arrogant expression. His gaze swept across the crowd as if he was looking at a group of lowly ants. Upon seeing him, the leader of the fallen Wing tribe bowed to greet him. Greetings, Demon Emperor. Greetings, Demon Emperor. The reaction of the fallen Wing tribe members made the leader of the Wing human tribe and the others turn pale. It really was a Demon Emperor. It's been a long time since I've been to the human realm. The air here is so fresh, the middle-aged man said after taking a deep breath. Then he glanced at Lan Yu who was on the altar. It's just my bad luck to encounter this hateful light aura as soon as I come out. As he spoke, he pointed a finger at Lan Yu from afar. A terrifying surge of demonic qi gathered and blended with a domineering Taoist rhyme that seemed to dominate the entire world before it headed towards Lan Yu. That powerful emperor's aura made it impossible for Lan Yu to resist. At that moment, a sword qi slashed out from the void. The sword qi was like a rainbow that blocked the middle-aged man's attack. The seventh forefather then walked out from the void with a solemn expression. The crowd could not help but feel shocked when they saw that he had blocked the middle-aged man's attack. Was an emperor's attack really that easy to block? A mere clone dares to act so arrogantly. Chu Kuangren slowly walked to Lan Yu's side and let her continue to operate the formation on the altar while he and the seventh forefather faced the middle-aged man. His words made the leader of the Wing human tribe and the others' eyes lit up. A clone. This so-called emperor in front of them was just a clone. This demonic well can only allow demonic beings below the sage level to pass through. No matter how strong this demon emperor's clone is, it can't be stronger than a sage. That's great, we still have hope. The crowd, who had felt hopeless because of their opponent's identity as an emperor, regained their confidence and the courage to fight again. Oh, you can tell that I'm just a clone. And you're quite observant. The middle-aged man was surprised. Even the Honorable Supreme and Honorable Supremes at the scene could not see through him, so he did not expect a battle monarch like Chu Kuangren to be able to see through him. If I'm not mistaken, you must be one of the 7 emperors of the demonic realm, Demon Emperor Pride, Chu Kuangren continued. Huh! Demon Emperor Pride was shocked. He did not expect that not only did his opponent know that he was a clone, but he also knew who he really was. What else do you know? Let's hear it. Demon Emperor Pride's interest was piqued. Demon Emperor Pride, don't be fooled. This person is obviously trying to stall for time so that Lan Yu can reactivate the spell to seal the demonic well. The leader of the fallen winged human tribe said hurriedly. Are you telling me what to do now? Demon Emperor Pride glanced at the leader of the fallen winged human tribe. I dare not. The leader of the fallen winged human tribe turned pale and knelt on the ground in fear. Chu Kuangren watched from the side. The Eye of Revelation's analysis was right. Demon Emperor Pride was indeed arrogant. I'm afraid this clone of yours doesn't even have 1/10,000th of your actual strength. Demon Emperor, do you really think this clone can stay in the human realm for long? I'm just trying to kill some time. Demon Emperor Pride said calmly. To him, he did not come to the firmament star to help the fallen winged human tribe. He was just bored and wanted to kill some time. Alright, Ant. I don't know how you know all this, but I want to kill someone now. Demon Emperor Pride could see that Lan Yu was about to successfully activate the spell. Although he did not care, he would not let Chu Kuangren and the others succeed either. The seventh forefather's expression changed slightly. He took a step forward, trying to stop Demon Emperor Pride. However, a terrifying domineering aura was released from Demon Emperor Pride's body and suppressed his Taoist technique. With his Taoist technique suppressed, his combat strength was greatly reduced. Even if it was just a clone of an emperor, he could still suppress all Taoist techniques. ****. A clone with less than 1/10,000th of his actual strength can suppress an honorable supreme. It's hard to imagine how terrifying his actual strength is. Is this the power of an emperor? The seventh forefather said in shock. Seventh forefather, leave him to me. Chu Kuangren suddenly took a step forward and activated all 3 Taoist physique transformations. He channeled his spiritual power and the 5 supreme foundation levels in his body simultaneously radiated with a divine light. Demon Emperor Pride was astonished. "You're not affected by my Emperor's aura? Your domineering aura is not strong enough." Chu Kuangren had been studying the Eternal Emperor scripture for 3 years. The Emperor's aura within the Emperor scripture was much stronger than Demon Emperor Pride's clone. Chapter 127. An Emperor suppresses all abilities. All the cultivator's Taoist techniques were suppressed by Demon Emperor Pride's Emperor's aura. Even if the honorable cultivators could channel their spiritual power, their Taoist techniques would be suppressed, and their strength would be greatly reduced. Moreover, this was just a clone of Demon Emperor Pride. If the main body were to descend, forget about a supreme honorable, even a sage ruler would be completely suppressed, unable to move at all. This was the power of an emperor. Among them, Chu Kuangren was the only one who had comprehended the emperor's scripture. For the past 3 years he had been immersed in the emperor's aura. Even though it was not the complete emperor's aura and it was just an emperor's scripture, it still made his resistance to the emperor's aura far stronger than the other cultivators. He could even move freely in front of Demon Emperor Pride's clone. Interesting. I didn't expect the human realm to have such a talented young man like you. Unfortunately, you may be able to resist the emperor's aura, but you're still just a battle monarch. Do you think you can defeat me? Demon Emperor Pride said and pointed a finger at Chu Kuangren from afar. A terrifying Taoist rhyme circulated, and demonic chi surged like a beacon. A finger's strength erupted, almost collapsing the entire void. Even if it was only a 10,000th or 100,000th of the Demon Emperor's power, even an honorable supreme would have to take it seriously. Little guy. Bachelor sage. The 7th forefather and the others were shocked. Even if Chu Kuangren was a peerless genius, he was still a battle monarch. How could he possibly withstand the attack of an honorable supreme? Boom. Just when everyone thought that Chu Kuangren was dead for sure, a terrifying sword chi suddenly erupted from his body. That sword chi was as bright as a rainbow, and it emanated a domineering aura. The Demon Emperor Pride's finger strength was shattered by that attack. This is a sage's attack. And it's not just any ordinary sage. Demon Emperor Pride was slightly surprised. Then, the majestic sword chi that carried a surge of sage's aura landed on the Demon Emperor's clone, tearing half of its body apart. The remaining power caused the fallen winged humans behind the Demon Emperor to suffer heavy casualties. Even an honorable would be easily killed by that power. A sage's attack shook the heavens and earth. Everyone stared at that scene in shock and gulped. Chu Kuangren actually possessed the power of a sage. How does that feel? Chu Kuangren looked at Demon Emperor Pride, whose body had been torn apart by the sword chi and was about to dissipate. This sword energy was one of the Starlight grade prizes that he had drawn a few days ago. It could unleash an attack that was as powerful as a great sage. Nothing much. You don't even have a 10,000th of my true body strength. Demon Emperor Pride snorted coldly, still as arrogant as ever. But it's enough to destroy this clone of yours. Demon Emperor Pride's face darkened. Although he didn't care much about this avatar, the fact that it was destroyed out of nowhere was enough to infuriate him. He'd come to the mortal dimension this time with the intention of killing time, yet he'd been annihilated before he'd even started, so how could he possibly be in a good mood? This was like a person who wanted to go on vacation. He had bought the plane ticket, prepared the travel guide and prepared his luggage. But as soon as he left the house, he was robbed of all his luggage, passports and the like. Tell me your name. My surname is He and my name is Bai Wen. Why do you have to ask? You're King messing with me? Demon Emperor Pride muttered the name twice before he suddenly realized what was going on. He glared at Chu Kuangren furiously. Anyone with a discerning eye can tell. Why do you have to ask? Chu Kuangren chuckled. Alright I'll remember your aura. You better pray that you never fall into my hands. Demon Emperor Pride was so angry that his mouth twitched before he gradually dissipated into the void. The Emperor's aura had also disappeared. Run. At that moment, the Lord of the fallen winged humans no longer cared about the demonic realm's descent. He led his subordinates and ran towards the direction of the demonic well. However, at that moment, the stone pillars around the altar began to glow brightly. 4 beams of light shot into the sky and landed on the demonic well. The void trembled and the demonic well gradually disappeared. The altar's formation had been restored by Lan Yu. Now you have nowhere to run. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. With the phantom light strike, he arrived beside the third elder and unleashed a palm attack. The power of the human mountain stamp was unleashed. The third elder was blasted away by that attack and he crashed into the ground, creating a huge crater. Countless cracks spread out like a spider web. Chu Kuangren appeared in front of the third elder like a ray of light. I've told you that no one can save you. You can die now. Chu Kuangren, you will die a horrible death. You've offended the demon emperor. You will not have a good ending. The third elder's face was covered in blood as he screamed. You won't be able to witness my ending. Chu Kuangren turned his sword and slashed it off the third elder's head. An honorable had fallen. Kill. Let's fight them. The lord of the fallen winged humans roared when he saw that there was no way out. He led the remaining fallen winged humans to fight the winged human tribe. In an instant, the ground and the void within a 100-kilometer radius shook. In the end, with the help of the seventh forefather and the others, the fallen winged humans who had lost the demon emperor's clone and the demonic well were annihilated. Winged humans, I curse all of you. The lord of the fallen winged humans roared. In the end, he was killed by the seventh forefather and the lord of the winged human tribe, and he exploded into a puddle of blood in the air. The fall of an honorable supreme did not bring about any transformations. With the great Dharma emergence, even the fall of an honorable supreme would not bring about any transformations such as the red rain. Perhaps it would be the same for the fall of a sage after some time. Finally, it's over. The lord of the winged human tribe breathed a sigh of relief. He then went up to Chu Kuangren and said gratefully, "Thank you for your help, Brother Chu. If it weren't for you, the winged human tribe would have been doomed." "It's all right," Chu Kuangren replied. This time he had done the winged human tribe a favor. "Since the demonic well's matter has been resolved, it's time for us to leave," Chu Kuangren said. "Brother Chu, there's no need to rush. You've helped us so much, so we should at least thank you. Why don't you stay in the city for a few more days? I'll arrange for someone to bring you around." The lord of the winged human tribe smiled. "Sounds good." Chu Kuangren gave it some thought. Since he was not in a hurry to leave, he agreed. The next day, a winged human tribe elder came and called Lan Yu away. Inside the great hall, Zhu Tianlan and a few other elders were gathered together, looking at Lan Yu before them with a smile on their faces, looking like they were harmless to both man and beast. "Lan Yu, you're still a member of the winged human tribe, and you've done us a great service by sealing the demonic well. Are you sure you don't want to stay?" One of the winged human tribe elders asked kindly. Lan Yu shook her head and said, "My only wish in this life is to follow my master. I'll go wherever my master goes. I've said this many times, so please don't try to persuade me anymore, elders. You're a young emperor. What's the point of staying by Chu Kuangren's side as a follower? What great achievements can you possibly achieve in the future?" Another white-haired elder said resentfully. "Sai, you can't say that. The divine predictor once said that Lan Yu's future achievements will not be any weaker than the emperors of old. However, Lan Yu, the path to becoming an emperor requires a lot of resources. How many resources can you possibly get by staying by Chu Kuangren's side? However, things will be different if you stay with the winged human tribe. We'll do our best to nurture you so that your journey on the path to becoming an emperor will be smoother." Chapter 128. In the Great Hall, one of the elders of the winged human tribe played the good cop while the other played the bad cop, trying to persuade Lan Yu to stay. After all, Lan Yu was a young emperor who was personally evaluated by the divine predictor as having the same potential as the emperors of old. In terms of value, even Zhu Tianlan could not compare to her. "I appreciate your kindness, elder, but I've said it before. I'm only willing to follow my master for the rest of my life. You don't have to say anything more." Lan Yu's attitude was firm. After that, she prepared to leave. "Hold it right there." At that moment, Zhu Tianlan could not help but speak up. "What's so good about that Chu Kuangren? Did he bewitch you? He's the one who made you so loyal to him." Zhu Tianlan's heart was filled with jealousy. He had to admit that he admired Lan Yu. Be it looks, qualifications, or identity, she was a good match for him. However, all he got in return was a cold attitude from her. On the other hand, Chu Kuangren had done nothing to make Lan Yu so loyal that she was willing to abandon the entire winged human tribe for him. He could not accept it, and his heart was filled with jealousy. "My master is a good person. You'll never be able to compare to him," Lan Yu said coldly when she saw Zhu Tianlan's hostility. "Just because he's stronger than me? There's someone 10,000 times better than you." Zhu Tianlan was speechless. This time he had completely given up. You can leave, but leave the scepter of light behind. Zhu Tianlan took a deep breath and said. Lan Yu frowned. What? The scepter of light is the symbol of the winged human tribe's highest authority. It's been wandering outside for a long time. If you had returned to the winged human tribe, we would have given you the scepter. However, since you insist on leaving, we can't let you leave with the scepter, Zhu Tianlan said. Since I can't keep you here, I must keep the sage ruler weapon. With his talent and the scepter of light, it would not take long for him to control the entire winged human tribe. Even the tribe leader would have to listen to him. The other elders looked at each other and stealthily sealed off Lan Yu's escape route. Even the kind-looking elder had a different expression on his face as he glared coldly at Lan Yu. You want the scepter? Dream on. Lan Yu's body flashed with a white light and a silver-white armor covered his body. He was ready for battle. Do it. Zhu Tianlan was the first to make a move. Both of his palms were stretched out and a terrifying Taoist rhyme was contained within them. The other elders also launched their attacks at the same time. The might of the honorable realm instantly locked onto Lan Yu. They wanted to end the battle quickly. No matter how talented Lan Yu was, she had only reached the battle monarch realm not too long ago. On the other hand, among the people in front of her, one was an ancient genius who was no weaker than her, and the rest were elders of the winged clan, all of them at the martial honor realm. It would be difficult for Lan Yu to fight against the combined forces of these people. Surrender. Zhu Tianlan seized the opportunity and sent out a palm strike. The boundless power sent Lan Yu flying, causing blood to trickle down from the corner of her mouth. Just as he was about to follow up with another attack, a domain force traversed through space and directly suppressed him. This pressure, how is this possible? Zhu Tianlan was trapped within the battle monarch domain. The spiritual power that he unleashed was dispersed, and he felt as if 100,000 mountains were pressing down on his body. Even moving a finger was extremely difficult. Outside the great hall, Chu Kuangren slowly walked in. His expression was as cold as an eternal iceberg, and when he saw the blood at the corner of Lan Yu's mouth, a terrifying murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Chu Kuangren, this is an internal affair of the winged human tribe. Die. Zhu Tianlan wanted to say something, but Chu Kuangren had already appeared in front of him and raised his hand to unleash a human mountain stamp. The extremely violent human mountain stamp instantly erupted and blasted onto Zhu Tianlan's head without holding back. With a bang like an exploding watermelon, red and white matter splattered everywhere. Zhu Tianlan's head had been forcefully blown up. An ancient sky pride, a young emperor, had fallen. Young emperor. Chu Kuangren, you deserve to die. The few honorables at the scene did not expect Chu Kuangren to kill Zhu Tianlan without even asking any questions just because of a disagreement. That was the young emperor of the winged human tribe. Now he had died in front of them. At that moment, the few honorables were so furious that they almost went crazy. The old man who was kind to Lan Yu immediately channeled his spiritual power and attacked Chu Kuangren. You're asking for it. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and unleashed another human mountain stamp. The horrifying energy instantly blasted the winged human elder away. His limbs, bones, and internal organs were all shattered, and his entire body fell to the ground like a pile of mud. There was no sign of life. The lord of the winged human tribe and the others who heard the commotion and rushed over just in time to see the scene of Chu Kuangren killing the winged human elder. When they saw Zhu Tianlan's corpse on the ground, their bodies trembled violently. Although he was furious as the lord of the winged human tribe, he still retained a shred of rationality. He suppressed his anger and walked into the great hall. What happened? I don't know either. Chu Kuangren slowly retracted his hand, which was still holding onto a primordial emperor's essence. That was the primordial emperor's essence that belonged to Zhu Tianlan. The lord of the winged human tribe and the others almost vomited blood when they heard what Chu Kuangren said. Don't know? If you don't know, then you killed Zhu Tianlan? But they injured Lan Yu. Chu Kuangren continued. Indeed, he did not know what happened, but the fact that these people dared to hurt Lan Yu was enough for Chu Kuangren to kill them. The lord of the winged human tribe glanced at Lan Yu. Seeing that she was indeed injured, he asked, Lan Yu, what happened? Lan Yu told the lord of the winged human tribe about how Zhu Tianlan and the others tried to steal the scepter of light. The lord of the winged human tribe's expression became uglier as he listened. He glared fiercely at the few elders who were in cahoots with Zhu Tianlan. What are you guys doing? Lan Yu has just saved our clan and you guys want to get rid of her after she's done with the grinding? Who gave you the guts to do that? Lord, the scepter of light is of great importance and Lan Yu refused to return to our tribe. That's why we listened to the young emperor and came up with this plan, one of the elders said, pushing the blame onto the dead Zhu Tianlan. They were only following the young emperor's orders and he was the culprit. He asked you guys to do it and you guys did it? Have all your years of living been in vain? Lord, it doesn't matter how this started. What's important is that Chu Kuangren has killed the young emperor and the fourth elder. One of the elders said loudly, glaring at Chu Kuangren furiously. The lord of the winged human tribe's heart skipped a beat. He too felt sorry for Zhu Tianlan's death, but the person who killed him was Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren was so powerful that he could even kill a demon emperor's clone. Moreover, he had an honorable supreme and two honorable supremes by his side. If they were to fall out with each other, the winged human tribe would definitely suffer. Not to mention that they had just saved the entire winged human tribe. If they were to fall out with Chu Kuangren in the blink of an eye, what would they say? Zhu Tianlan incited our tribe to harm Lan Yu. He deserved to die. As for the few of you who were his accomplices, all of you shall face the wall for 10 years. You're not allowed to leave the city without my permission. The lord of the winged human tribe had already made up his mind. Lord, I refuse to accept this. Just as that elder was about to say something, the other elders beside him rushed up and held him back. Listen to the lord of the winged human tribe. Shut up and stop fooling around. Chapter 129. Chu Kuangren was not surprised by the lord of the winged human tribe's punishment. From the beginning to the end, he had been standing in the same place, looking as if he had nothing to do with it. He was not worried about his situation at all. It was as if he was not the one who had killed the young emperor. Brother Chu, it's my fault for not being able to control my subordinates properly. I'm sorry for making you laugh. The leader of the winged human tribe forced a smile. It doesn't matter. This matter isn't your fault. It's just that it's not good for us to continue staying here after something like this has happened. Then I won't keep you, fellow Taoist. The lord of the winged human tribe then looked at Lan Yu and said, Lan Yu, since you have chosen to follow Brother Chu, I will respect your decision. However, I hope that you will remember that the winged human tribe will always welcome you. Also, take this primordial emperor's essence from Zhu Tianlan. It will be helpful to you. If you need anything in the future, feel free to look for me. Thank you for your understanding, clan leader. Lan Yu's expression softened. Chu Kuangren raised an eyebrow as he held onto Zhu Tianlan's primordial emperor's essence. Initially, he did not plan to return this primordial emperor's essence anyway. After all, he had saved the entire winged human tribe. It was not too much to ask for a sovereign energy from the winged human tribe as a reward. However, the winged human tribe leader's words made it seem as if he had taken the initiative to give the sovereign energy to Lan Yu and had done her a favor. Furthermore, he had made his stance clear with his words and pulled his relationship with Lan Yu closer. After all, they were both winged humans. If Lan Yu became an emperor in the future, given her personality, she would definitely not forget to take care of the winged human tribe. TSK as expected of a clan leader. Chu Kuangren did not mind at all. As long as the winged human tribe did not harm Lan Yu, it was not a big deal for them to play some tricks on him. Just like that, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu left the winged human tribe. Chu Kuangren did not plan to return to the Black Heaven sect. After being in seclusion for 3 years, he heard that many geniuses had appeared. He wanted to take a good look around and see what kind of trash they were. Above the sea of clouds, an immortal boat was sailing. Lan Yu sat on the deck and was merging with Zhu Tianlan's primordial emperor's essence. She soon succeeded, and her understanding of the Tao deepened. Chu Kuangren watched from the side. He was not very interested in the primordial emperor's essence. He had the Eternal Imperial Sutra, which was much more precious than the Arch-Chi. Young master, where are we going next? Lan Yu asked curiously after fusing with the primordial emperor's essence. Wherever I go, Chu Kuangren answered casually. In fact, he did not have a clear goal in mind. Previously, he had visited various orthodoxies in the name of discussing the Tao. However, now that his cultivation had even surpassed that of a supreme exalt, there was no longer a need for him to visit these orthodoxies to discuss the Tao, unless he was looking for a saint. However, sages were elusive. How could it be so easy to meet them? He had not even seen the sage behind the Black Heaven sect. Young master, there's movement up ahead. At this moment, Lan Yu suddenly said. In front of them, there was a group of black flying beasts surrounding a huge ferry boat. It's a black-feathered demonic bird. Chu Kuangren immediately recognized the species of these beasts. There were more than 10 cultivators on the immortal boat. These people were fighting against the attacks of the demonic beast. All sorts of Tao techniques were released and it was dazzling. However, the Yao beasts far outnumbered the cultivators. After just a few rounds, the cultivators suffered from serious casualties. Additionally, the immortal boats were badly damaged as well. If this were to continue, all the cultivators would be wiped out. Damn it, these demonic beasts are too annoying. If this goes on, we're all going to die here. B****, this is too frustrating. I don't want to die yet. Some of the cultivators on the ferry boat were panicking, while others were angry. However, the sharp howls of the beasts continued to echo in their ears as if they were mocking them. At that moment, a surge of Taoist rhymes suddenly erupted from afar and struck the group of beasts. More than 10 beasts exploded on the spot and turned into a mist of blood. The sudden attack shocked all the beasts and cultivators, causing them to look into the distance. All they saw was a ferry boat breaking through the sea of clouds. On the deck stood a man and a woman, both of whom were peerless figures. These two people were Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu. Evil beasts, how dare you hurt people in front of me? You must be tired of living. Chu Kuangren said coldly as he stood on the deck. A strong gust of wind blew past, causing his black hair and clothes to flutter. His aura of a banished immortal instantly subdued all the cultivators on the ferry boat. Fellow Taoist, please save us. One of the nascent soul cultivators said loudly. Don't worry everyone. Since I'm here, these beasts won't be able to hurt you. Chu Kuangren said righteously. All the cultivators on the scene were extremely excited. This fellow Taoist really has a chivalrous heart. Chu Kuangren was also very satisfied with his entrance. When it's time to act tough, I'll fight for justice. After all, these beasts were just small fries to him. Saving these cultivators was just a piece of cake. A beast flapped its wings and pounced towards Chu Kuangren. Its sharp claws reflected a chilling light under the sun. Following that, more beasts flew towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren did not even bother to use his sword. Instead, he activated his Battle Monarch domain and covered the void within a radius of 1,000 feet. A large number of flying beasts were bound in midair, unable to move. Die. Chu Kuangren raised his arm, and spiritual power surged as he unleashed the human mountain stamp. With a loud explosion, the beasts were killed on the spot. Even the aftermath was not something these golden core and nascent soul beasts could withstand. The peerlessly terrifying power of the human mountain stamp shocked everyone present, and the Battle Monarch domain made them suck in a breath of cold air. This is a domain. This young man is actually a Battle Monarch cultivator. How old is he to have such a cultivation level? Which sage orthodoxy sky pride is this? Most of the cultivators on the ferry boat were from small sections. They did not even have a protector, and the highest cultivation level among them was only at the nascent soul realm. A Battle Monarch was already an impressive figure to them. After sensing Chu Kuangren's terrifying strength, the remaining beasts did not dare to stay any longer. They hurriedly flapped their wings and fled. Not long after, not even a single beast could be seen in the sky that was filled with demonic chi. All that was left were the casualties on the ferry boat and the damaged ferry boat, indicating that a battle had taken place there. On the ferry boat, a nascent soul realm elder walked forward and respectfully said to Chu Kuangren, I'm an elder of the Iron Mountain sect. Thank you for your help, fellow Taoist. May I know your name? I'm Chu Kuangren. Greetings, fellow Taoists. Chu Kuangren? The legendary Chu Kuangren who single-handedly defeated 5 young emperors. The nascent soul realm elder was shocked. The others were even more shocked. They had long guessed that Chu Kuangren's identity was not simple, but they did not expect him to be the legendary peerless sky pride Chu Kuangren. Your brother Chu Kuangren. At that moment, a young man walked out of the ferry boat and looked at Chu Kuangren excitedly. That's me. Great, I finally met you in person. I'm Yun Feiyang, a loose cultivator from the northern Lingdao state. 3 years ago, you killed hundreds of thousands of demonic cultivators in the northern Lingdao state and saved hundreds of millions of people. You're a great benefactor of the northern Lingdao state, and I've been longing for you for a long time. Today I've finally met you. Chapter 130. Chu Kuangren had disappeared for 3 years. His deeds were gradually overshadowed by other sky prides, but there were still some who did not forget. For example, in the northern Lingdao state, Chu Kuangren's name was still a cultivator, a legend passed down by the people. His deed of killing 100,000 demonic cultivators and saving the Taoist state was recorded in history. Countless cultivators looked up to him as a role model. Yun Feiyang was one of them. The northern Lingdao state. After the demonic onslaught, how has it been lately? Chu Kuangren asked as he reminisced. He was just asking casually, but to Yun Fei Yang, it seemed like Chu Kuangren cared about the people, which made him respect him even more. Ever since the demonic onslaught, the Taoist state has suffered great losses. The various sects and schools have lost many talents, but they have gradually recovered in recent years. The Mountain River sect has also been rebuilt, Yun Fei Yang said. That's good to hear. By the way, Brother Chu, are you going to Sword Prayer City too? Sword Prayer City? Chu Kuangren was slightly confused. Seeing the expression on his face, Yun Fei Yang knew that he had misunderstood, so he said, Sword Prayer City is holding a great sword tournament recently, and many cultivators are going there to join in the fun. I thought Brother Chu would be the same. Oh, you're all going to Sword Prayer City? Yes. That's great, let's go together. Chu Kuangren's interest was piqued. Really? That's great. Yun Fei Yang was even more excited now. To be able to travel with his idol was something he dreamed of. Along the way, Yun Fei Yang was very friendly towards Chu Kuangren, and the others were also very curious about this peerless sky pride. However, unlike Yun Fei Yang, they only observed in silence and did not interact much with him. Sword Prayer City is the place with the highest concentration of swordsmiths in the Azure Dragon domain. Its history can be traced back tens of thousands of years. The swords forged by Sword Prayer City are very famous in the Azure Dragon domain and even the Firmament Star, especially the Centennial swords. Each of them is a weapon that sword cultivators dream of owning. Every time they appear, many people will be attracted, Yun Fei Yang said beside Chu Kuangren. The 100-year famed sword referred to a famed sword that was forged every 100 years in the Sword Reverend City. Every time the sword was forged, a great sword assembly would be held, inviting sword cultivators from all over the world to seek a suitable owner for the famed sword. The 100-year swords were about to appear in the world. Currently, all the sword cultivators in the Azure Dragon region were rushing towards the Sword Reverend City. Even some cultivators who were not sword cultivators ran over to join in the fun. The Black Heaven sect specializes in the Sword Dao, and they have some friendly relations with the Sword Prayer City. 30% of the swords on the Sword Mountain originate from the Sword Prayer City. In addition, little fellow, the Descendant Self-Sword in your hand is also one of the famous swords of Sword Reverend City. At this moment, the seventh ancestor transmitted his voice over. A look of surprise flashed across Chu Kuangren's eyes. The Sword Reverend City can forge saint swords? That's not the case. Not many swords are forged into holy swords. Swords become spiritual because they are wielded. The Kunwa Holy Sword became a holy sword because of an ancestor of the mysterious Sky sect. Actually, it's the same whether it's a sword or any other weapon. Most sage artifacts weren't sage artifacts in the beginning. They were only nurtured by sages and were tainted by sages' Taoist rhymes, gradually becoming sage artifacts. It's just that some weapons are more likely to become sage artifacts because of the material they were made of, or they become more powerful after becoming sage artifacts. A good weapon's grade will continue to increase as the cultivator's cultivation level increases. It's not impossible for it to become an emperor weapon in the end. The Sword Prayer City Century Sword is such a weapon. The seventh forefather gave Chu Kuangren some basic knowledge. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. He had read about this in the ancient books before, but the seventh forefather's explanation was more straightforward and easier to understand. A day later, Chu Kuangren and the others arrived at the Sword Prayer City. The city was very lively with people coming and going. Blacksmith shops could be seen on both sides of the street, and the sound of metal clanking could be heard constantly. Some of the clanking sounds were very noisy, while others were very pleasing to the ear. They carried a mysterious Taoist rhyme, like a piece of music. Other than the blacksmith shops, sword cultivators could be seen everywhere in the Sword Prayer City. Be it men or women, young or old, 9 out of 10 cultivators that Chu Kuangren saw had sword-based Taoist rhymes. Chu Kuangren's Taoist heart was a little excited when he arrived. He had the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, which was naturally compatible with Sword Dao. Now that he was in the Sword Prayer City, he felt like a fish in water. Interesting. Chu Kuangren smiled. That feeling made him very happy. He had made the right decision to come to the Sword Prayer City. Brother Yun, let's part ways here. Chu Kuangren cupped his fists at Yun Fei Yang. Yes, Brother Chu. Goodbye. Yun Fei Yang was a little reluctant to leave. Although he had only spent a day with his idol, he was already deeply attracted to his idol's personality. Looking at Chu Kuangren's departing figure, Yun Fei Yang secretly made up his mind. From now on, he would work hard in his cultivation and strive to become an outstanding cultivator like his idol. After parting ways with Yun Fei Yang and the others, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu planned to find an inn to stay in. Since the Great Sword Tournament was about to begin, many cultivators had arrived in the Sword Forge city. Almost all the inns were full. However, this was not a problem for Chu Kuangren. With his wealth, he could easily build an inn with soul stones. After they found a place to stay, night fell. The Sword Prayer City's night market was very lively. Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu strolled along the streets and passed by a stall. The owner of the stall was a middle-aged man in a gray robe. In front of him were pieces of strangely shaped stones. Each stone was labeled with a price. Even the cheapest one cost 100 top-tier soul stones. This was a price that most cultivators could not afford. These raw stones look pretty good. Yes, they are. However, even a top-tier ore is only worth a few hundred top-tier soul stones. This middle-tier ore is priced at 100 top-tier soul stones. That's a little high. There are so many rich people in this world anyway. There's no need to worry that no one will buy them. Look, those few over there are enjoying themselves. The stall was surrounded by a crowd. Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu also joined in the fun. They're gambling on stones, Chu Kuangren said after watching for a while. In places where spiritual qi gathered, stones with rare minerals would occasionally form. These stones were known as ores. The surface of ores was very special. Spiritual thoughts could not penetrate it, so one could only rely on one's eyesight and experience to determine its value. Sometimes, an ordinary ores could contain top-grade minerals that were worth tens or hundreds of times more. Sometimes, the ores that were bought at a high price turned out to be worthless. Young man, do you want to give it a try? The stall owner saw that Chu Kuangren was interested, so he invited him. Chu Kuangren thought for a while and squatted down. He smiled and said, "Then I'll pick a few to play with." After all, he had a lot of soul stones in his yin and yang ring, so he could afford to play with them. He casually pointed at a black stone. This one. The crowd saw that he did not even look at it carefully before randomly picking one. They immediately knew that he was a newbie in the stone gambling circle. Chapter 131. Fellow Taoist, are you sure you want this one? The owner of the stall smiled faintly. These raw stones were all his. He knew which ones were good and which ones were bad and how they looked like. He knew everything clearly. The one Chu Kuangren had chosen was undoubtedly the worst one. The probability of getting something good was very low. No, I'll take this one. Chu Kuangren smiled. Beside him, an old man who was also picking raw stones saw how casual Chu Kuangren was, so he said, "It would be strange if you got anything good with your choices. Young man, stone gambling is not as simple as you think. In this line of work, you can't just rely on luck." The old man had been in the stone gambling industry for hundreds of years and was extremely experienced. He looked down on those who relied on luck the most. To him, a moment of luck did not mean anything at all. Thank you for the reminder. I'm just playing around." Chu Kuangren smiled and did not say anything. Seeing how indifferent he was, the old man snorted, quite dissatisfied. "All right, I have someone who specializes in opening stones for you. You only need to pay one top-tier soul stone. What do you think?" The stall owner said. "Sure." A total of 101 top-tier soul stones. After Chu Kuangren paid the soul stones, he asked someone to take his raw stone and open it. The surrounding crowd watched curiously. Although they did not hold much hope, it would be a waste not to watch a show like this. Some people even had the mentality of watching a joke. "Do you guys think this will rise?" "Rise my asteriscus. Based on my decades of experience in stone gambling, this raw stone is just a piece of trash. It won't rise." "That's right, the quality is too poor. Even if it can be seen, it'll probably be the lowest quality jade stone. These 100 top-tier soul stones are definitely a loss." No one thought that this raw stone would rise. In fact, it was very easy for Chu Kuangren to know whether this raw stone could rise or not, because he had the treasure locating skill. As long as he activated it, he would naturally know whether this raw stone was a treasure or not. But he didn't do that. Instead, he chose a raw stone at random just to test how good his luck was. A middle-aged man held a saw-like knife and began to cut open the rock. As the cracks on the rock became deeper and deeper, a bright red light shot out from the cracks and into the sky. The red light vaguely transformed into a divine bird that circled in the sky. A strong Taoist rhyme filled the air, causing everyone's expression to change. In particular, the disdainful old man was breathing heavily as he looked at the stone. This phenomenon, could it be the stone of phoenix blood? The stone of phoenix blood was a quasi-sage grade mineral. The old man had been in the stone gambling circle for so many years, but he had never seen such a mineral before. He had only heard about it from some of his fellow Taoists. But now, such a top-notch treasure was right in front of him, and it was obtained by a young man who only relied on luck. This caused his mentality to be somewhat unbalanced. As the ore was completely opened, the image of the divine bird in the sky became more and more lifelike. It was the legendary divine bird, the phoenix. The middle-aged cultivator looked at the blood-red, crystal-clear raw stone in front of him and gulped. "Oh my God, this is the first time in so many years that I've opened a mineral of this grade. My life was worth it." The divine bird, the phoenix, circled in the void for a while before it slowly dissipated. However, everyone was still immersed in shock and could not recover from it. What the F***ck? The stone of phoenix blood. After a long while, one of the cultivators stuttered. In an instant, the rest of the people began to discuss among themselves. "That guy used 100 soul stones to open the stone of phoenix blood. That's not just a profit, it's a crazy profit. Gulp, if this stone of phoenix blood were to be sold, it could fetch at least a few million top-tier soul stones. That's tens of thousands of times more." What's the stone of phoenix blood? It's a legendary mineral in the stone gambling circle. Whether it's used for cultivation or equipment forging, it's a top-notch treasure. If anyone who plays stone gambling can open a stone of phoenix blood, their life would be worth it. Everyone looked at Chu Kuangren enviously, and some of the cultivators who gambled on the stones felt a little remorseful. 100 top-tier soul stones for a stone of phoenix blood. If they had bought it, they would be the ones getting the stone of phoenix blood now. How could this be? That raw stone was undoubtedly of the lowest grade, so how could it contain a stone of phoenix blood? Also, why couldn't I tell? The old man stood there and murmured, his face full of regret and unwillingness. The stall owner was heartbroken too. He sold a stone of phoenix blood for 100 top-tier soul stones just like that. That was not just selling it cheaply, it was giving it away for free. "Fellow Taoist, have you gambled on stones before?" The stall owner asked curiously, suspecting that Chu Kuangren was pretending to be weak. "No, it's my first time." "Then your luck must be heaven-defying." The stall owner could not help but smile bitterly when he saw that Chu Kuangren did not seem to be lying. "My luck has always been good." Chu Kuangren smiled. With the Lucky Halo's help, his luck was not just good. He was the Emperor of Fortune, no, the God of Fortune. This stone of phoenix blood is a sage-grade mineral. If you bring it to the auction house, it's not impossible to sell it for tens of millions of soul stones. The stall owner said emotionally. Although he was heartbroken, the outcome was already set in stone. The moment he sold it, it no longer mattered to him what the raw stone was worth. That much. Lan Yu was a little surprised. 100 soul stones sold for tens of millions? That was 100-fold increase. That was too much. "Ha, Lan Yu, you pick one too," Chu Kuangren said. Lan Yu was a little tempted, so she began to pick carefully. She did not have any experience in stone gambling, but those in the industry could tell from her actions. Then she picked a raw stone. To the old man and the stall owner, that raw stone was neither too good nor too bad. After handing over the soul stones, they continued to open the stones. The crowd gathered around to watch. To be able to get a stone of phoenix blood once is already very heaven-defying luck. "I'm guessing it won't be anything good this time." "I think so too." "Their luck can't be that good, can it?" A burst of golden light shot out from the cracks in the raw stone. A golden liquid flowed out of the raw stone, containing extremely pure spiritual qi. It was a spiritual marrow. What the F***ck? This is a spiritual marrow, an earth spiritual marrow. This raw stone is actually a crystal formed from the earth spiritual marrow. My God. An earth spirit crystal, an honorable grade mineral. First, they got a sage grade mineral like the stone of phoenix blood, and now they got an earth spirit crystal. These two are too lucky. Everyone was shocked. The stall owner wanted to cry, but no tears came out. What was going on? They bought a stone of phoenix blood and now they got an earth spirit crystal. Were these two messing with him? "Fellow Taoist, tell me honestly, is this really your first time stone gambling? Some cultivators might not even get to see these two stones in their lifetime." The stall owner once again suspected Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren said helplessly, "It's really my first time. This is impossible, this is impossible." The old man beside him clutched his chest and panted. His face was flushed and his veins were bulging. Chu Kuangren was taken aback. Was the old man going to have a heart attack? How did you know?" The old man stared at Chu Kuangren with bloodshot eyes. The 2 raw stones that contained rare minerals were placed in front of him, but he could not tell what they were, allowing a young man to buy them for a low price of 100 soul stones. He had never seen such a rare mineral in his entire life in the stone gambling circle. How could he accept this? I really picked them randomly. What about you, Lanyu? I thought that one looked better, so I picked it. Chapter 132. Chu Kuangren was also slightly surprised by his own luck. The first time he got a stone of phoenix blood, the second time he got an earth spirit crystal. This lucky halo was quite amazing. Chu Kuangren put the 2 ores into his yin and yang ring. Then, the 2 left under the envious gaze of the crowd, leaving behind a bewildered old man and a distressed stall owner. Their luck is just too good. To think that they could obtain such a rare or just by randomly picking one. How amazing. Just who are these 2 fellows? Wait, if they can get such a mineral from a random pick, what about the other ores? Can it also produce good ores? Someone in the crowd suddenly said. As soon as this was said, many people's eyes lit up. That's right, if 2 ordinary ores could contain such top-notch minerals, then what about the better ores? Thinking of this, the crowd looked at the ores in front of the stall owner with burning eyes and immediately surrounded him to pick and choose. Boss, I want this one. This one looks good, several times better than the ores those 2 people chose. I don't believe it can't get anything good. Boss, I want all of these. The stall owner's ores were immediately bought by the crowd. Perhaps Chu Kuangren's luck of getting 2 top-grade minerals had created a false impression that they could do the same. Even some noobs who did not know anything could not sit still and bought them one after another. A profit of tens of thousands of times. Who could sit still? However, when the ores in the crowd's hands were opened one by one, everyone was dumbfounded. Not to mention a profit of tens of thousands of times, even the best ores could only cover the cost. Most of the ores were worthless waste stones, and the only 2 valuable ores had already been taken by Chu Kuangren and Yi Lingchen. This time the crowd was no longer calm and they were mentally unbalanced. What the F***ck, how could this be? The ore I chose was definitely a good one, why did it get such a **TTY thing? This is not fair, why can they get top-grade minerals from such a bad ore but mine can't? Sigh, that's how stone gambling is. It depends 30% on eyesight and 70% on fate. I can only say that those 2 people have great luck. No boss, I want a refund. Yes, there must be a conspiracy. I want a refund. The stall owner calmly took out a big knife and stabbed it into the ground. He said lightly, the raw stone has been sold. There is no such thing as a refund in this business. Seeing this, everyone calmed down. The crowd dispersed, but the news of a man and a woman stone gambling in the night market and obtaining a stone of phoenix blood and an earth spirit crystal spread like wildfire throughout Sword Prayer City. For a moment, countless people were envious. The next day, Chu Kuangren was still doing the lucky draw as usual. Congratulations to the host for drawing the divine pet, the immortal phoenix. Godly pet. Even if Chu Kuangren had the lucky halo, he was still extremely surprised that he could draw a god-tier prize. Opening up his inventory, there was an additional prize that emitted a fiery red glow among the various prizes. It was an egg. The surface of the egg was also engraved with all kinds of profound runes. Extract. With a command in his mind, an egg that was bigger than a human head suddenly appeared in front of Chu Kuangren. A mysterious Taoist rhyme emanated and quickly spread, directly affecting the entire Sword Prayer City. Countless strong cultivators sensed it and looked towards Chu Kuangren's direction. What is this Taoist rhyme? It's so strange. It's filled with a strong vitality and a fiery Taoist rhyme. Could it be that some kind of peerless fire attribute beast has been born? Interesting. In Sword Prayer City, surges of spiritual thoughts surged towards Chu Kuangren's direction. However, they were then blocked by 3 more powerful spiritual thoughts. It was the 7th forefather and the other 2 who intercepted them. Honorable Supreme? Such a strong cultivator has appeared in Sword Prayer City. Interesting. It seems that this opportunity of fortune will not be mine. The deterrence of an Honorable Supreme was still very strong. In the absence of a sage, no one would dare to go against such an existence. In the room of the inn, Chu Kuangren looked at the egg in front of him curiously. How do I hatch this egg? Young man, look at this Taoist rhyme. This egg is a peerless beast. No, it might even be an extinct ancient species. The 7th forefather's emotional voice came from the void. He did not ask how this egg came to be. He had long been convinced by Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren's opportunities of fortune were rarely seen in this world, and it was shocking. If he could open a sage grade or just by going out for a stroll, it was not impossible for him to pick up an ancient species along the way. Seventh forefather, I don't have much experience in incubating eggs. Do you know how to do it? Chu Kuangren asked curiously. The seventh forefather's face darkened. I don't have any experience either. He was not a hen, so how could he have any experience in incubating eggs? Chu Kuangren was a little disappointed. Although I don't have any experience, it's recorded in the ancient books that incubating this type of beast requires a large amount of energy. Most of the energy is channeled by the mother during incubation. Why don't you try? All right then. Chu Kuangren nodded and placed his hand on the godly phoenix egg. The eggshell was very warm and smooth like a piece of warm jade. Tisk, it'll be nice to hug it to sleep in the winter. After placing his hand on the eggshell, Chu Kuangren began to channel the spiritual power in his body and slowly channeled it into the godly phoenix egg. Suddenly, the godly phoenix egg erupted with a strong suction force. The spiritual power in Chu Kuangren's body surged uncontrollably towards the godly phoenix egg, and in the blink of an eye, 1/10 of his spiritual power was sucked away. After all, he had the 5 supreme foundation levels, and the abundance of spiritual power in his body far exceeded those in the same realm. Even an honorable could not compare to him. Yet, 1/10 of his spiritual power was sucked away in the blink of an eye. If it were any other battle monarch, would they not be sucked dry in an instant? Chu Kuangren did not stop and allowed the godly phoenix egg to absorb his spiritual power. After a while he was left with less than 1/10 of his spiritual power, but the godly phoenix egg still showed no signs of hatching. It was like a bottomless pit, unfathomable. If this goes on, I'll be sucked dry first. Chu Kuangren shook his head, stopped channeling his spiritual power, and retracted his hand. The godly phoenix egg trembled, and Chu Kuangren felt a sense of dissatisfaction. It was as if the egg was complaining that it was not full. Looks like I've established a preliminary connection with this godly phoenix egg. Chu Kuangren thought to himself, and then a helpless look appeared on his face. Why do I feel like I'm raising a child? There's no more food today, I'll give you more tomorrow. Chu Kuangren shook his head and used his spiritual thought to comfort the godly phoenix egg. Then he threw it into his yin and yang ring and took out a few medicinal pills to replenish his spiritual power. After breakfast with Lan Yu, the two of them left the house. Due to the Great Sword Tournament, more and more sword cultivators came to Sword Prayer City from all over the world. Most sword cultivators would rather break than bend, and they had a strong and unyielding temperament. They would draw their swords at the slightest sign of conflict. Chapter 133. Swordsman of Snow, I want your sword. If you want my sword, let's see if you're capable enough. At the peak of a tall building in the Sword Reverend City, 2 swordsmen were currently engaged in a duel. Sword chi filled the air as a large crowd gathered below. Originally, with so many swordsmen in the Sword Reverend City, it wasn't a rare thing for people to fight each other. However, these 2 people were different. Sword Hoarder and Swordsman of Snow are fighting. Holy F***CK. Those are all supreme beings. They're probably here for the Centennial Sword as well. Can Swordsman of Snow beat Sword Hoarder? It might be a little difficult. The crowd was in a heated discussion. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu were curiously watching the battle from below. Young master, these 2 are quite strong, especially the one called Sword Hoarder. He isn't considered weak even amongst the Supremes, Lan Yu said. The Sword Hoarder she mentioned was an old man with a gloomy face. He wore a gray robe and carried a sword case on his back. His aura was extremely powerful. Yes, I have heard of this person. In the Azure Dragon domain there is a saying, 2 heroes and 7 heroes. The 2 heroes refers to my honored master and honorable swordsman White Cloud, while the 7 heroes refers to the 7 swordsmen who are second only to these 2. Sword Hoarder is one of the 7 heroes of Sword Dao. As for Swordsman of Snow, he's quite famous in the world of swordsmanship, but he's slightly weaker than Sword Hoarder. Chu Kuangren said slowly as he observed the 2 of them. After some comparison, he found that although his cultivation was not as good as the 2 of them, if they were to fight, it would not be too difficult for him to win. He was much stronger than he was 3 years ago. Supreme technique, 1,000 miles of drifting snow. At that moment, Honorable Swordsman of Snow held his long sword and a cold Taoist rhyme emanated from him. The sword slashed out, and the snow-white sword light stretched across the sky. Ah, good timing. Wolf Devour. Sword Hoarder laughed heartily. sword chi intertwined around him and transformed into a giant purple wolf. The giant wolf collided with the snow-white sword light and tore it apart. Then it crashed into Swordsman Supreme of Snow. Venerable Swordsman of Snow spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. Sword Hoarder seized the opportunity and swung his sword again. This time he managed to sever Honorable Swordsman of Snow's hand and snatch his sword away. Ah, Snow Drinker. The sword is mine. Sword Hoarder took off the sword case on his back and opened it. There were a dozen or so swords inside. Every single one of them was of extraordinary quality, precious light swirling about them. Sword Hoarder put Snow Drinker in and smiled in satisfaction. Not far away, Swordsman of Snow clutched his broken arm, his face pale and his eyes filled with resentment. Sword Hoarder, you've gone too far. Too much? How is it too much? A good sword naturally needs a good swordsman. Your skills are inferior, so this sword should be mine. His name was Sword Hoarder, and he loved collecting all kinds of famous swords, especially the swords of famous swordsmen. Every time he collected a famous sword, he would feel an extraordinary sense of accomplishment. As for how he was going to collect it and how the process was going to be, he did not care. In the crowd, Chu Kuangren shook his head. In his opinion, Sword Hoarder was a collector. It was not a big deal, but his methods were too extreme. No wonder he had such a bad reputation in the world of swordsmanship. It's a pity that Honorable Swordsman of Snow is being targeted by Sword Hoarder. Sigh, in this world of swordsmanship, even those who are weak dare not flaunt their good swords. They're afraid of being targeted by Sword Hoarder. I guess he's here in Sword Prayer City for the Century Sword. I wonder if anyone can stop him. It's hard to say. Sword Hoarder is one of the 7 heroes of the swordsmanship world. Sword Hoarder did not care about the crowd's comments. After he obtained the sword, he carried the sword case and was about to leave. However, his gaze suddenly froze as he looked into the crowd. As if he had sensed something, he scanned the crowd. It's the aura of a good sword. And it's a very good sword. Where is it? Sword Hoarder mumbled to himself. Finally, his gaze locked onto Chu Kuangren and he appeared in front of him in a flash. Sword Hoarder's sudden appearance caused many people to retreat. Kid, let me have a look at the sword in your body. Sword Hoarder stared at Chu Kuangren with a fiery gaze. He had sensed that Chu Kuangren definitely had a good sword with him. In fact, it was even better than Snow Drinker. Chu Kuangren was slightly surprised. How did Sword Hoarder know that he had a sacred sword in his body? At that thought, he activated his Eye of Revelation. Instantly, information about Sword Hoarder flashed through his mind. Sword Hoarder, one of the 7 heroes of the Azure Dragon domain, cultivates the honorable human sword sense and has a keen sense of all swords in the world. Chu Kuangren finally understood. The human sword sense had such a unique technique. No wonder he could sense the sacred sword's aura in his body. I can't give you my sword, Chu Kuangren said. You can't. Sword Hoarder raised an eyebrow and looked Chu Kuangren up and down. It was his first time seeing someone with such an extraordinary temperament. Moreover, Chu Kuangren was able to face him so calmly. Could he be a God-favored disciple from some sage orthodoxy? At that thought, even Sword Hoarder could not help but be cautious. He took out the sword case and opened it, revealing the glowing swords inside. Take your pick. I'll trade with you. Chu Kuangren glanced at the swords in the case. They were indeed extraordinary, but unfortunately, none of them could compare to the Descendant Self-Sword. The sword case, on the other hand, gave him a very strange feeling. Interesting. Chu Kuangren carefully looked at the sword case. The sword case looked like it was made of a single piece of bronze. Its edges and corners were seamless, and there were mysterious runes and pictures of beasts engraved on it. Chu Kuangren subconsciously reached out to touch the sword case. However, when his fingertips touched the surface of the case, it suddenly trembled, and an incomparably mysterious Taoist rhyme emanated. All the swordsmen present felt the swords in their hands start to tremble as if they were summoned. Sword Hoarder's expression changed. He quickly closed the sword case and looked at Chu Kuangren in shock. What did you do? What can I do? I just touched it a little. Is that really all? Sword Hoarder was still doubtful. After all, since he obtained this sword chest, no matter what he did, he'd never caused it to react in the slightest. However, the sword case reacted to Chu Kuangren's touch. What the hell was going on? Cut the crap. Kit, are you going to trade or not? Nope. If that's the case, then don't blame me. In the end, Sword Hoarder could no longer hold back his desire for the sacred sword in Chu Kuangren's body. He immediately attacked with 2 fingers like a sword. Oh, you've gone too far. Chu Kuangren's gaze turned cold. He did not expect Sword Hoarder to attack him just because he did not want to trade. Chu Kuangren unleashed his spiritual power and attacked with his palm. Human Mountain Stamp. Majestic earth chi gathered in his palm and collided with Sword Hoarder's sword fingers. A terrifying shockwave erupted and both sides were forced back. As one of the 7 heroes of the swordsmanship world, his strength is indeed much stronger than the 3rd elder of the winged human tribe, Chu Kuangren thought to himself. Chapter 134. Wow, he's so strong. Sword Hoarder's expression changed when he sensed Chu Kuangren's strength. He was obviously shocked by his opponent's strength. To have such combat strength at such a young age. This person was definitely a sky pride from some sage orthodoxy. Kid, which young emperor are you? Sword Hoarder asked coldly. To him, only a young emperor could force him to retreat. Even an average young emperor would not be able to do so. I'm not a young emperor, but I've defeated quite a few before this. Chu Kuangren smiled. The crowd was in an uproar when they heard that. Someone's eyes narrowed when he thought of something. I know. He's the elder senior brother of the Black Heaven sect, Chu Kuangren. Everyone knew that Chu Kuangren had defeated a few young emperors some time ago. Coupled with his appearance and demeanor, it was not difficult to guess who he was. Everyone was shocked at that moment. So he's Chu Kuangren. It's true that seeing is believing. He really has the looks of an immortal and his strength is just too strong. Yeah, he managed to force Sword Hoarder to retreat with just one palm. He's an honorable, much stronger than the average honorable. Looks like it's true that he defeated a few young emperors. The crowd was in an uproar. Some of the young geniuses could not help but be excited. A young emperor was the goal of many young sky prides, but Chu Kuangren had defeated a few of them. That alone was enough for many sky prides to elevate him to a higher position. Sword Hoarder was slightly surprised when he heard about Chu Kuangren's identity. Rumor has it that there are 10 sacred swords in the Black Heaven sect. It seems that the one in your body is one of them. No wonder it gave me such a feeling. Sword Hoarder's eyes were filled with reluctance. That was a sacred sword. He loved collecting famous swords, but he had never collected a sacred sword before. However, no matter how tempted he was, he could not do anything about it. Because his opponent was Chu Kuangren, the elder senior brother of the Black Heaven sect. He must have an honorable protector behind him or even more than one. If Sword Hoarder were to make a move, it would not end well for him. What a shame, what a shame. Let's go. Although Sword Hoarder was reluctant, he knew that he could not get the sacred sword that Chu Kuangren had. Just as he was about to leave, a ray of light flashed in front of him. It was Chu Kuangren who stood in front of him. Since you've already made your move, don't you think it's too easy for you to leave now? Chu Kuangren said coldly. He attacked as he pleased and left as he pleased? Did he really think he had no temper? Did he really think that the name Chu Kuangren was just for show? Do you really think you can stop me if I want to leave? Sword Hoarder slapped his sword case and a treasured sword flew out into his hand. Wolf Devour. Sword Hoarder swung his sword without holding anything back. Countless sword chi intertwined to form a gigantic purple wolf that had the power to devour the heavens as it charged towards Chu Kuangren. Didn't you want to see my sword? As you wish. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. The sword chi within his body surged, and the descendant self-sword flew out along with the sword chi, unleashing a blinding purple sword ray. The sword light was like a flood, and a terrifying Taoist rhyme that seemed to be able to destroy everything and tear the sky apart surged out along with the sword light. The gigantic wolf was decapitated by the sword light, and its Taoist rhyme and spiritual power dispersed. However, the purple sword ray was still charging forward and locked onto Sword Hoarder. His expression changed as he raised his long sword to block the attack. With a loud clang, the long sword broke into several pieces. Sword Hoarder spat out a mouthful of blood from the impact of the sword chi and was sent flying. His body smashed through several walls like a cannonball. Even with the sacred sword in his hand, his combat strength is still too strong. Rumor has it that he killed Honorable Swordsman White Cloud 3 years ago. I guess he does live up to his reputation. Sword Hoarder's face was pale, and his eyes were filled with horror. He threw away the broken sword in his hand and placed his sword case in front of him. He then channeled a large amount of spiritual power into it, and a myriad of treasured swords flew out and surrounded him with terrifying Taoist rhymes. Chu Kuangren, have a taste of my sword formation. 1,000 army sword formation. Go. The 12 treasured swords formed a circle and locked onto Chu Kuangren with a majestic sword chi. Taoist rhymes filled the air as the sword chi intertwined with each other. The 12 swords unleashed the aura of an army of thousands. Thousand army sword formation. This was Sword Hoarder's most powerful killing technique. It was also one of the reasons why he was so passionate about collecting famed swords. He wanted to have enough swords to unleash this powerful sword formation. Faced with the incoming sword formation, Chu Kuangren neither dodged nor evaded. Instead, a mysterious Taoist rhyme emanated from his body and a sword of the heavens formed above his head. In an instant, all the swords in the city trembled. "Freeze!" Chu Kuangren yelled. The 12 swords that were flying towards him were frozen in mid-air, and the monstrous sword chi dispersed in an instant. The scene before them shocked the crowd, including Sword Hoarder. What's going on? Sword Hoarder channeled his spiritual power in an attempt to control the 12 swords. However, no matter what he did, the swords did not budge an inch. They even resisted and rejected his spiritual power. Sword Hoarder had never encountered such a situation before. The swords don't communicate with humans. How can you control them? At that moment, Chu Kuangren spoke. With a thought, the swords that were suspended in mid-air plunged into the ground in front of him. The swords bent slightly as if they were bowing to him. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. I get it now. You have the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. You're the one controlling these swords. Sword Hoarder finally figured it out. He stared at Chu Kuangren with bloodshot eyes filled with disbelief and intense jealousy. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart was born with the ability to communicate with thousands of swords. It could even allow one to control swords without refining them. It was extremely powerful. It was a physique that every sword cultivator dreamed of. You only kept the swords but didn't refine them. Even if you can forcefully control them with your spiritual power, you're still at a disadvantage. Nonsense. Do you really think everyone has the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart? How could I refine so many swords? Sword Hoarder's tone was filled with jealousy and hatred. There was a limit to how many swords one could refine. A person's energy was limited, and most sword cultivators would only refine one sword in their lifetime. Moreover, how could Sword Hoarder ever imagine that he would one day go up against Chu Kuangren, who had the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart? That's why you've lost, Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He then slowly raised his hand and aimed it at Sword Hoarder. With a thought, the entire sword case trembled slightly and flew towards him. What? Give me back the sword case. Sword Hoarder panicked. The sword case and the swords within it were his life's work. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and slashed again. The Descendant Self-Sword exploded with a dazzling sword ray, forcing Sword Hoarder to defend himself with all his might. Even so, he was still blasted away with dozens of sword wounds on his body. Seeing that, Sword Hoarder knew that he was no match for Chu Kuangren. If he stayed any longer, he might even lose his life. Making a prompt decision, countless sword chi erupted from his body towards Chu Kuangren. Then he fled into the distance. Chapter 135. After Sword Hoarder escaped, everyone looked at Chu Kuangren in shock. That was a supreme martial artist. Chu Kuangren chased them away just like that? This young man's strength was actually to such an extent. In the younger generation there were only a few who could do this. Is this the Chu Kuangren whose name shook the world 3 years ago? He's too powerful. Even without the Emperor's chi, he's no weaker than a young emperor. What young emperor? I'm afraid he wouldn't even be able to take a single blow from him. The only ones who can be compared to him are those ancient monsters. That's right, Chu Kuangren is too scary. TSK, that Sword Hoarder has kicked an iron plate. Up in the sky, the 7th Patriarch's 3 Tao protectors exchanged glances and couldn't help but mourn for Sword Hoarder for a second. Was Sword Hoarder weak? Actually, he was not weak. To be able to be ranked among the 7 heroes of the Way of the Sword, how weak could such an existence be? Unfortunately, it had encountered a freak like Chu Kuangren. The sword formation was completely suppressed and rendered useless. Let's go, Lan Yu. Fellow Taoist Chu, please wait. Just as Chu Kuangren was about to leave with Lan Yu, a rough male voice suddenly came from behind. He turned around and saw a sturdy man with a square face walking over, sizing him up curiously. I am Feng Ming from the Feng clan of the Sword Reverend City. I pay my respects to Taoist Chu. Feng clan? Runes swirled in Chu Kuangren's eyes as he studied the information of the person in front of him. It was indeed as he had said, he was from the Feng family. The Feng clan was the largest swordsmithing clan in the Sword Reverend City. Generation after generation they had been forging swords for a living. The 100-year sword was forged by them. What can I do for you, fellow Feng? Fellow Chu is the big brother of the mysterious Sky Sect. My Feng clan and the mysterious Sky Sect have a good relationship. To tell you the truth, the Kuan-Wu sacred sword in your hand was made by the ancestor of my Feng clan. I have admired the craftsmanship of my ancestor for a long time, so I want to see it. Feng Ming said expectantly. Chu Kuangren pondered for a moment before he took out the descendant self-sword and handed it to him. He was not afraid that the other party would snatch it. The other party did not have the ability to do so. Feng Ming took the Kuan-Wu sword and carefully observed it. His eyes revealed a look of admiration. It is indeed worthy of being one of the best works of the ancestor. It is indeed a work of the gods. I still have a long way to go before the ancestor. Feng Ming said emotionally as he returned the descendant self-sword to Chu Kuangren. Brother Chu, you've come from afar. If you don't mind, would you like to stay with me at the Feng family's place? Sorry to trouble you then. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. Before he left, Chu Kuangren noticed Honorable Swordsman of Snow, who was not too far away. Honorable Swordsman of Snow looked at Chu Kuangren and was hesitating about something. Chu Kuangren stared at him for a while before he walked up to him. He opened the sword case and took out Snow Drinker. This is your sword. Fellow Daoist Chu, this. Take it. This sword is useless to me. Chu Kuangren said calmly. That sword was indeed useless to him. Instead of keeping it as scrap metal, he might as well return it to Honorable Swordsman of Snow. Brother Chu, please accept my gratitude. Venerable Swordsman of Snow took 2 steps back and half knelt on the ground. You may rise. Chu Kuangren returned the sword and left. Honorable Swordsman of Snow's eyes were filled with gratitude as he left. Brother Chu, not only do you look like an immortal, but you're also kind-hearted and chivalrous. You're truly admirable. Feng Ming praised Chu Kuangren sincerely on the way to the Feng residence. He had seen too many sanctimonious people in his life, but it was rare to find someone like Chu Kuangren who was as honest as he was on the outside. It's nothing. Chu Kuangren smiled. Soon the 3 of them arrived at the Feng residence. Oh, Brother Chu, it's you? Chu Kuangren met a familiar face the moment he entered the Feng residence. It was Li Xingqian from the White Cloud City's White Jade Hotel. Brother Li, why are you here too? Chu Kuangren was surprised too. I'm here with Master Windbeard. Sword Prayer City is hosting the Great Sword Tournament, so I'm here to join in the fun. I'll be staying here for now. Li Xingqian smiled. Windbeard was a master craftsman from the White Cloud City and a member of the Feng family. The Golden Lotus Spirit testing that Li Xingqian took out at the banquet was forged by Windbeard, so he had a good relationship with Li Xingqian. Chu Kuangren and Li Xingqian reminisced about the past when they bumped into an acquaintance. Then Feng Ming introduced Feng Xuanzi, the current head of the Feng family, to Chu Kuangren. He was an old man with white hair, but his muscles were like molten steel and he exuded a strong aura. Chu Kuangren shuddered at the sight of that physique and those muscles. He could clearly feel the terrifying power contained in that physical body. Beside Feng Xuanzi was an old man who looked similar to Feng Xuanzi. It was his younger brother, Windbeard. These 2 brothers could be said to be the most famous swordsmiths in the world. Black Heaven Sect's lead disciple, I apologize for not coming out to greet you. Feng Xuanzi's eyes lit up when he saw Chu Kuangren. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart was the most suitable physique for swordsmanship, and it was the master that all swords in the world wanted to follow. As a swordsmith, Feng Xuanzi was naturally curious about this physique. After looking at Chu Kuangren for a while, Feng Xuanzi also requested to see the descendant self-sword. Chu Kuangren did not object to it. This sword was created by my ancestor, and it followed the Black Heaven Sect's 3rd forefather to conquer the world. It was only then that it was upgraded to a sage weapon. Now that it's in your hands, I hope Junior Chu will take good care of it. Feng Xuanzi said solemnly. Of course. All right, I'll get someone to arrange a room for you. Thank you. That night, Li Xingqian looked for Chu Kuangren to catch up. Speaking of which, Li Xingqian had an extraordinary encounter in the past 3 years. Although he did not obtain the Emperor's essence, he had other opportunities that allowed his cultivation to improve by leaps and bounds. He was now a battle monarch, and his combat strength was not inferior to an honorable. He was considered a famous sky pride in the Azure Dragon domain. Li Xingqian, young master of the White Jade Hotel, Starlight Physique, Sage Technique, Heavenly Cycle Technique, Remnant Spirit of a Sage Ruler within his body, Chu Kuangren activated his Eye of Revelation and saw through Li Xingqian's current cultivation realm, techniques, trump cards and so on. Especially that remnant spirit of a sage ruler, which surprised him. Could this be the legendary Grandpa Dharma body? TSK, I didn't know that Li Xingqian is a protagonist. Oh right, Brother Chu, do you know why Master Windbeard came back to Sword Prayer City? Li Xingqian did not know that Chu Kuangren had already analyzed his information, so he suddenly said mysteriously. Didn't they say that the century swords have appeared? No, Master Windbeard has been in White Cloud City for so many years, but he never returned when the century swords appeared. Then why did he suddenly come back this time? Because Master Windbeard and his brother, the Feng family's head, are preparing a 100-sword spectrum. 100-sword spectrum? Yes, a list of the world's century swords, ranking them according to their quality, level, owner and other aspects. Master Windbeard stayed in White Cloud City for so many years because of this reason. Because of the existence of Honorable Swordsman White Cloud, there were many swordsmen who came and went in White Cloud City, including many honorable swordsmen. This was the perfect place for him to collect information. Besides that, the Feng family has also sent many people to various places to collect information about the world's century sword spectrum. I heard that the Feng family plans to use this opportunity to reveal the 100-sword spectrum to the world. Chapter 136. The 100-sword spectrum sounds interesting, but is there any guarantee of credibility? Chu Kuangren asked curiously. The most important thing in creating a famed sword list was to gain the recognition of the world. Otherwise the list would just be a joke. The Feng family has been planning this for many years and has collected a lot of information. Aside from the sages, there are also many powerful swordsmen and famed swords. This credibility is guaranteed. I'll wait and see then. Chu Kuangren smiled. After chatting for half an hour, Li Xingqian left. Outside the door, a ray of starlight flew out from Li Xingqian's body and transformed into an old man in a white robe. Xingqian, your friend is not simple. Brother Chu is a peerless sky pride. Of course he's not simple. It's not just that. Whenever you meet him, I always feel like there's a dagger at my back as if I'm being seen through. I have to hide my aura carefully, afraid that he'll notice. What? Did Brother Chu sense my teacher's presence? Li Xingqian was shocked. His teacher was a sage ruler remnant spirit. Even an honorable supreme could not sense his presence, yet Chu Kuangren did. I don't know either, but this person is not to be underestimated. I'd rather face an honorable supreme than fight him. You worry too much, teacher. Brother Chu is my friend and you're my teacher. How could there be a direct confrontation? Li Xingqian smiled. I hope so. The old man in the white robe had a flash of light in his eyes, but Li Xingqian did not notice it. Chu Kuangren was in his room, planning to take out the sword case he got from Sword Hoarder and study it. However, when his spiritual thoughts entered the yin and yang ring, he was stunned by what he saw. The soul stones that he could have piled up like a mountain had turned into a pile of rubble. The spiritual chi within them had all been sucked dry. The fiery red godly phoenix egg was lying in the pile of soul stones. The surface of the eggshell was overflowing with colors and a mysterious Taoist rhyme. Chu Kuangren was dumbfounded. The godly phoenix egg had sucked all the spiritual chi from the soul stones. *CK there were at least 10 million top-tier soul stones here. This egg was too wasteful. Furthermore, it was not just the spirit stones. Some of the medicinal herbs in his universe ring, even the stone of phoenix blood and the earth spirit crystal that he obtained yesterday, had their spiritual chi sucked dry and lost their Taoist charm. Chu Kuangren was so angry that the corner of his mouth twitched. He immediately took out the godly phoenix egg and threw it on the ground. The godly phoenix egg suddenly changed its environment, and it seemed to be a little nervous as it spun a few times on the ground. However, when she saw Chu Kuangren, she calmed down and jumped into Chu Kuangren's arms even though she did not have legs. She used a hazy thought to convey a sense of closeness and dependence to him. Chu Kuangren did not look too pleased. He placed the godly phoenix egg on the table and said, "Who told you to suck all the soul stones and herbs dry?" The godly phoenix egg tilted its head and replied with its thoughts. Although it was not very clear, Chu Kuangren could roughly understand it. Divine phoenix egg. Papa, I'm hungry. I want to eat. Chu Kuangren said, I've just fed you so much spiritual power this morning and you're already hungry? Are you a godly phoenix or an avarice? Godly phoenix egg. Not enough. What is a tauta? Can it be eaten? Chu Kuangren retorted, you at ++ #%, godly phoenix egg? After Chu Kuangren scolded it for a while, he realized that the godly phoenix egg did not understand him at all. The godly phoenix egg once again burrowed into Chu Kuangren's arms and rubbed against him with its jade-like shell. Although it did not understand, the godly phoenix egg could sense Chu Kuangren's dissatisfaction. It was using this method to please him. Alright, I'm out of ideas. Chu Kuangren sighed helplessly. Isn't it just 10 million soul stones? Isn't it just some honorable supreme elixirs? Isn't it just sage-grade ores? If it's gone, so be it. What else can I do with my child? I'll just keep it. Chu Kuangren hugged the godly phoenix egg and channeled some spiritual power into it. This time it was not as exaggerated as it was in the morning. It was probably full now. Chu Kuangren put the godly phoenix egg back into his yin and yang ring and pondered. Incubating the godly phoenix egg was harder than he thought. After all, it was a deity-grade pet, so the amount of energy required was too much. Looks like I'll have to find a way to earn some soul stones first. Chu Kuangren had never worried about this before, but it was different now. To earn some milk powder money, he had to put in more effort. Without thinking about it, Chu Kuangren began to study the sword case in front of him. He tried to channel his spiritual power into the sword case. However, the sword case suddenly vibrated, and the mysterious runes on it suddenly lit up, revealing a mysterious Taoist rhyme. Before Chu Kuangren could study it in detail, the sword case turned into a stream of light and entered his body through his fingertips, arriving at his spiritual mound. Apart from the 5 supreme foundation levels, Chu Kuangren's spiritual mound only had the Descendant Self-Sword. Now that a sword case had suddenly barged into it, the Descendant Self-Sword emanated sword chi as if it was trying to expel this uninvited guest. However, a strange Taoist rhyme emanated from the sword case, and the initially aggressive Descendant Self-Sword retracted its sword chi. Chu Kuangren sensed it and began to study the Taoist rhyme on the sword case. Gradually he understood everything. This is an emperor weapon. The sacred emerald sword case. Chu Kuangren was overjoyed. The sacred emerald sword case originated from an ancient sword emperor. Although it did not have a powerful attack, it had the magical effect of nurturing and upgrading swords. Originally, cultivators had the ability to refine and nurture weapons. As their cultivation level increased, their weapons would also be upgraded. The sacred emerald sword case could amplify this effect. Even if one's cultivation level did not increase, it could still continue to upgrade the sword's grade. For example, sage weapons were divided into normal sage weapons, great sage weapons, and sage ruler weapons. Normally, a normal sage could only nurture a normal sage weapon. However, with the sacred emerald sword case, one could nurture a great sage weapon. Besides that, most cultivators could only refine and nurture 2 or 3 weapons due to their limited energy. However, with the sacred emerald sword case, any sword that was placed in the case could be refined and nurtured at the same time. Think about it. Others only had one sword, and if it broke, they would have to repair it and refine it again. However, if you had 100 swords, you would have 99 more if one broke. That sword hoarder has given me a big gift. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Emperor weapons had spirits, and they would not easily recognize a master. Even if Sword Hoarder obtained the sacred emerald sword case, he could only carry it on his back like a normal sword case. He could not even store it in his spiritual mound. It was not until Chu Kuangren that the sword case finally met its master. Without much refining, Chu Kuangren had already recognized it as its master. After that, Chu Kuangren placed the Descendant Self-Sword into the sacred emerald sword case. The sword case then released a strange Taoist rhyme that nurtured the sacred sword. Somewhere in Sword Prayer City, Sword Hoarder was sitting on his bed, meditating. After a while, he opened his eyes, which were filled with hatred. Chu Kuangren, I will avenge you for stealing my sword case. Now that my sword has been stolen, I can't use my 1,000-army sword formation anymore. Looks like I'll have to look for another batch of swords. Damn it. The swords that I've spent most of my life collecting are gone just like that. And those 2 bastards who said they wanted to fight for the sword soul still haven't shown up. What bad luck. As Sword Hoarder spoke, a pitch-black longsword appeared in his hand. There were scarlet patterns on the blade, and it emanated an extremely strong ferocious chi. It was a ferocious sword. Chapter 137. Sword Prayer City, Central Plaza. Today was the official day of the Great Sword Tournament. Swordsmen from all walks of life, from honorable swordsmen to ordinary swordsmen, were all looking forward to it. On a high platform there was a rack with a sword on it. The sword was 3 feet long, its blade glowed with a green light, and there were countless beautiful patterns on it. Strands of sword chi wrapped around the blade, and the hilt was inlaid with gemstones. The blade had a dragon's head on it, and it was exquisite beyond compare. Below the platform, all the swordsmen stared at the sword with fiery eyes. So this is the century sword? It really lives up to its name. I can even feel its sharp sword chi from afar. This sword has yet to recognize its owner, but its sword chi is already a top-notch supreme weapon. If it can be nurtured by a sage, it will become a sage weapon in less than half a year, and even a sage ruler weapon in the future. I must have this sword. Haha, no one can compete with me for the century sword. All of you are thinking of eating peaches. This is mine. All the swordsmen were determined to get their hands on it. Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu sat by the window in one of the restaurants at the Great Sword Tournament's venue, enjoying the lively crowd with great interest. Master, aren't you going to get the sword? Lan Yu asked curiously. Chu Kuangren thought for a while. Let's take a look first. Although this sword is not bad, it doesn't make a difference to me whether I get it or not. Although he now had the Emerald Spirit Sword case, the sword case itself contained more than a dozen famous swords that the sword hoarder had seized. Every single one of them was no weaker than a century-old sword, so it didn't matter to him whether he seized the swords or not. At that moment, a person walked up to the platform. It was the son of the Feng family's current head, Feng Ming, who had invited Chu Kuangren to the Feng family as a guest yesterday. Everyone, this sword is called the Heaven Starlight. It was forged using 10,000 years dark steel and earth core flame. It is indestructible, and its power is enough to split mountains. It is the greatest masterpiece of Sword Prayer City in the past 100 years. Feng Ming introduced the sword to the crowd on the platform. Although the crowd was restless, they listened patiently until the end. I hereby announce the start of the Great Sword Tournament. The rules remain the same. The last person standing on the platform will be the owner of the Heaven Starlight. Everyone, please do your best. Feng Ming laughed heartily before turning around and leaping off the stage. Among the crowd, a swordsman could no longer hold back and jumped onto the arena, saying, I am Earth Tiger Sword, who would like to exchange pointers with me? Swoosh! A swordsman rushed onto the stage. Please? Without any pleasantries, the two swordsmen immediately started fighting. Sword chi flew, wreaking havoc in the void. The Great Sword Tournament was in full swing as the swordsmen fought each other with great vigor. Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu were enjoying their melon seeds and dried fruits in the restaurant, enjoying the show. However, it did not take long for Chu Kuangren to lose interest. These swordsmen are only SOSO. Aside from some of the honorable swordsmen who are worth watching, the rest of them are either flashy or plain. Of course, these people can't be compared to Young Noble. Oh yes, Young Noble, the Sword Reverend City spent so much effort to forge the sword. Why did they have to hold the Great Sword Tournament and hand it over to someone else? Isn't this a loss? Lan Yu asked, puzzled. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Lan Yu, don't be fooled by the swordsmiths of the Feng family just because they have thick eyebrows and big eyes, making them look like uncouth old men. How stupid can they be to be able to run the entire Sword Prayer City? Why would they do something that's a loss? Firstly, the Great Sword Tournament can attract a large number of swordsmen to Sword Prayer City. This will greatly increase the income of the city's restaurants, inns and other industries, and it will also allow the swordsmiths to sell more swords. Secondly, they can increase the reputation of Sword Prayer City and use the 100-year sword to make friends with the best swordsmen in the world. As the saying goes, those swordsmiths who get the 100-year sword all owe the Feng family a favor. Spirit stones, reputation and connections. It's just a sword, and the Great Sword Tournament has taken them all. Do you still think they're at a disadvantage now? Chu Kuangren said slowly. Lan Yu pondered for a while and said, Young Noble, you're right. They're all smart people. Just as Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu were conversing, a powerful aura suddenly erupted from the Great Sword Tournament. A young man's figure flashed and landed on the arena. Sword chi swirled around his body and a powerful Taoist rhyme poured out. My name is Li Xingqian. Please enlighten me. The young man who entered the arena was Li Xingqian. Chu Kuangren glanced at him and smiled. He really went up. Oh well, let's see the power of the stellar Taoist physique. When Li Xingqian reminisced with Chu Kuangren, he mentioned that he was not interested in the 100-year sword, but he wanted to join in the fun. He also wanted to use this opportunity to test his strength against the world swordsmiths. Li Xingqian of the White Jade Hotel, allow me to challenge you. A young man leaped onto the arena. He was also a talented Sky Pride. Please. Li Xingqian cupped his fists and took out a sword. With Taoist rhymes swirling around his body, he battled with the Sky Pride. Although he did not have the title of young emperor, Li Xingqian's strength was comparable to that of a young emperor. Few among the younger generation could match him. Sword rays swirled around Li Xingqian's body. Every slash of his sword seemed to be imbued with the power of the stars. It was dazzling. Not long after, the Sky Pride who fought him was defeated. "Thank you for letting me win." Li Xingqian cupped his fists and said. Then he looked around and said proudly, "Is there anyone else who wants to come up and give it a try?" In the restaurant, Chu Kuangren smiled. "It's different to have an old grandpa. He's much stronger than he was 3 years ago." According to his estimation, Li Xingqian's strength was similar to young emperors like Lin Badian and Ao Chang. His combat strength was comparable to an honorable. In fact, he was even stronger than an ordinary honorable. Even if he encountered an honorable, he could still exchange a few blows with them. Just as the Great Sword Tournament was in full swing. In a valley in Sword Prayer City, the temperature in the valley was extremely high. Furnaces used for crafting weapons stood tall, and the sound of metal clashing could be heard continuously. Dozens of shirtless swordsmiths were busy at work. Why are there so few people in Skyfire Valley today? One of the swordsmiths looked around and could not help but ask curiously. It's because of the Great Sword Tournament. Everyone's gone to watch the show, a black-haired burly man said with a hammer on his shoulder. TSK, I wonder who the owner of the Heaven Star Sword will be. Anyway, it's not you. You can't say that. No matter what, the Heaven Star Sword was forged here. Strictly speaking, I'm the creator of the Heaven Star Sword. What's wrong with me being concerned about it? One of the creators, the black-haired burly man, corrected him. Forget about the Heaven Star Sword. How many century swords didn't come from Skyfire Valley? Kid, before you came here we've already given away countless century swords. One of the swordsmiths laughed and patted the shoulder of the grumbling swordsmiths. At that moment, the black-haired burly man frowned and looked out of the valley. I think there's some movement. Chapter 138. At the Great Sword Tournament, Li Xingqian had already defeated 3 people in a row. His formidable combat strength had shocked everyone present. As expected of the young master of White Jade Tower. His strength is comparable to some of the young emperors. How impressive. Yeah, no wonder he has the legendary Starlight physique. It's amazing. I'm afraid even some of the honorables are no match for him. The crowd was in a heated discussion. Suddenly, a white long sword appeared in the air and stabbed itself into the ground in front of Li Xingqian. The crowd saw a young man with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes walking across the air. He soon arrived at the arena and stood on the hilt of the sword. His powerful aura and elegant entrance quickly caused many people to exclaim in surprise. I know this man. He's one of the 10 unparalleled heroes by Qianjun. He is one of the ancient sky prides who has awakened. His combat strength is incredible. That's right. Rumor has it that he has joined the Dharma sect. His status is even higher than that of the young Emperor Yuan Hong. This Great Sword Tournament has attracted him as well. The 10 unparalleled heroes were 10 sky prides who did not obtain the Emperor's essence, but their cultivation, talent and combat strength were comparable to that of a young emperor. There were even rumors that some of them did not use the Emperor's essence to become an emperor, and their reputation was comparable to that of a young emperor. I think this sword looks good. I'll take it. Bai Qianjun glanced at Li Xingqian and said in a determined tone. Li Xingqian frowned, displeased. It's not impossible for you to have the sword, but you'll have to defeat me first. Bai Qianjun raised 3 fingers. 3 strikes. What do you mean? I only need 3 strikes to defeat you. Bai Qianjun wore a proud look on his face. Sword chi swirled around his body, and a sharp Taoist rhyme surged, exerting great pressure on the crowd. Li Xingqian's eyes flashed with anger. How arrogant. I'd like to see how you're going to defeat me in 3 strikes. He raised his hand and swung his sword. Starlight erupted, and the stars in the sky seemed to have fused into the sword's ray. The long sword under Bai Qianjun's feet spun, and an incredibly sharp sword chi exploded. It landed on the Starlight sword and forced Li Xingqian to retreat. So powerful. Li Xingqian's expression changed slightly as he slashed out once again. This time, the power behind this slash was even stronger than the previous one. However, Bai Qianjun's improvement was even stronger than his. The sharp sword chi tore through the starlight and pushed Li Xingqian back to the edge of the arena. Defeat. With a light shout, Bai Qianjun leaped up into the air, holding the long sword with both of his hands, as if he was trying to split a mountain into 2. A vast and mighty sword light surged out, wrapped in an astonishing sharpness, and directly blasted Li Xingqian out of the arena. With a loud clang, the sword in Li Xingqian's hand was broken into pieces. With only 3 sword strikes he was defeated by Qianjun. Damn it! Although Li Xingqian did not suffer any serious injuries, he was still thrown out of the ring, which meant that he had lost. He unwillingly threw away the broken sword. This person's combat strength is far stronger than the average honorable, and he has a high level of mastery in swordsmanship. Swordsmanship is not your forte, so it's not surprising that you lost to him. The remnant spirit's voice rang in Li Xingqian's mind. Bai Qianjuan's strength is indeed impressive. As a sky pride from the Dharma sect, one is a young emperor, and the other is one of the 10 unparalleled warriors, but I'm afraid that Yuan Hong is no match for Bai Qianjun. That's right, it's possible. I heard that Yuan Hong could not even take a single attack from Chu Kuangren. Suddenly someone mentioned Chu Kuangren among the crowd. On the arena, Bai Qianjuan's heart skipped a beat. He looked around and said loudly, I heard that Chu Kuangren was here 2 days ago. Now that the Great Sword Tournament is about to begin, I think you should be here. Yuan Hong was defeated by you. Now that I'm a Taoist of the Dharma sect, it's my responsibility to avenge him. I wonder if you could show yourself and teach me a lesson. Bai Qianjun had directly declared war on Chu Kuangren. However, no one responded after a while. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren was sitting in a restaurant. His Taoist heart trembled slightly as if something was resonating with him. He turned a deaf ear to Bai Qianjuan's challenge. Chu Kuangren looked into the distance. Something seems to be resonating with me in that direction. What could it be? On the arena, seeing that no one responded to him, Bai Qianjun continued to say loudly, I didn't expect the elder senior brother of the Black Heaven sect to be such a coward. What Kuangren? Why don't you change your name to Vile Person? How dare you? Lan Yu could no longer sit still. A terrifying surge of Taoist rhyme erupted from his body as he stood up and dashed towards the arena. While Bai Qianjun was laughing on the arena, he suddenly felt a surge of Taoist rhyme locking onto him. Then, a white spear that was wrapped in terrifying light energy was shot towards him. This strike was incomparably powerful. Bai Qianjuan's expression changed slightly as he unleashed a sword strike with all his might. The terrifying sword chi collided with the white spear, resulting in a shockwave that caused the surrounding buildings to tremble. Meanwhile, the arena was left with countless craters by the shockwave. Gravel and dust flew everywhere as Bai Qianjun was forced back a few feet. The crowd could not help but gasp. What a powerful attack. Who did it? Look, it's young Emperor Lan Yu. Up in the sky, Lan Yu spread her wings. She was dressed in gorgeous silver-white armor, and her light blue eyes were burning with anger. Her beautiful face was covered with a layer of frost that couldn't be melted. The young emperor's aura was on full display. It's really her, young Emperor Lan Yu. The divine predictor once commented that she's a peerless beauty whose achievements are on par with the emperors of old. Peerless beauty, she lives up to her name. I heard that she's Chu Kuangren's follower. I wonder how Chu Kuangren managed to get her to follow him. It's not just her. Chu Kuangren is also Princess Linglong's fiancé. TSK, she's also a peerless beauty and a young emperor. One is as pure as a goddess while the other is elegant and beautiful. Not to mention that they're both young emperors. Chu Kuangren's luck with women is just too good. The crowd was in awe of Lan Yu's beauty and strength. Many male cultivators were envious of Chu Kuangren's luck with women. Bai Qianjun was the same. When he saw Lan Yu, he was stunned as well. However, when he remembered that she was Chu Kuangren's follower, he could not help but feel jealous of Chu Kuangren. You're courting death for insulting my master. Lan Yu floated in the air and unleashed a boundless light-based Taoist rhyme towards Bai Qianjun. Does that Chu Kuangren only know how to hide behind a woman? If he's a real man, why don't he come out and fight me? You can't stop yelling. How annoying. At that moment, an indifferent voice came from the inn not far away. Then, a majestic palm strength that contained a majestic Taoist rhyme and a dazzling divine light swept out like an ancient godly mountain. Wherever the palm strength passed, the void rumbled and a terrifying storm was formed. Bai Qianjuan's expression changed. He was locked onto by the palm strength and had nowhere to run. He channeled his spiritual power into the long sword in his hand and slashed out. When the sword chi collided with the palm strength, the sword chi was easily shattered. That palm attack landed on Bai Qianjuan's body, causing the entire arena to shake violently and huge cracks to spread. Chapter 139. That horrifying palm had sent Bai Qianjun flying into the ring. Everyone who witnessed that scene could not help but gulp in shock. Even an honorable would not be able to block that palm attack so easily. It was too terrifying. It's Chu Kuangren. It's definitely Chu Kuangren. What a horrifying palm attack. A technique that gathers earth chi, and it's definitely a sage ruler technique. I've never seen or heard of such a technique before. That's one of the 10 unparalleled warriors, yet he was sent flying into the ring by Chu Kuangren? F***CKme, isn't that a little too strong? Not far away, Feng Ming was speechless when he witnessed that scene. This ring was built with a mixture of dark steel. Even an honorable would not be able to destroy it so easily, yet it was smashed into pieces by a single palm attack. Is this combat strength something a battle monarch should possess? Boom. A powerful shockwave erupted from the ring, sending countless gravel flying everywhere. Bai Qianjun dashed out from the rubble. His hair was disheveled and his clean white robe was covered in dust. He looked like a mess. Chu Kuangren, you ambushed me. Bai Qianjun stared at the restaurant angrily. You were buzzing around outside like a housefly. Do I have to ask for your permission to kill a housefly? Chu Kuangren's voice came from the restaurant. Then everyone saw a white-robed figure slowly walk out. His jet-black hair was like a waterfall and he wore a jade crown on his head. His white robe was peerless and every move he made was extraordinary. Everyone who saw Chu Kuangren for the first time was stunned. This Chu Kuangren is too extraordinary. I've long heard that he has a peerless appearance and a natural Taoist rhyme around him. He's like an immortal. His reputation is well-deserved. F***CKme, this is what I feel. I can't take it anymore, I'm going to turn gay if I look at him any longer. Oh my god, is this Chu Kuangren? Master, you should only look at paintings, I'm the only one who knows. When one is at the end of his rope, he will not be a man of the mortal world. The ancient poem was not lying. A man as beautiful as jade, master is peerless. Those who were uneducated could only stare in shock when they saw Chu Kuangren. They would then exclaim, F***CK, this man is too F***king handsome. Some scholars would recite a few lines of poetry to praise it. As for some of the female cultivators, their hearts were pounding as they stared at Chu Kuangren in awe and fascination. To put it bluntly, they were lusting after Chu Kuangren's body. The man who was initially jealous of Chu Kuangren also felt a little ashamed and lamented, no wonder Princess Linglong and Lan Yu are so loyal to him. It turns out that he's such an extraordinary person. A hint of jealousy flashed across Bai Qianjun's eyes. Chu Kuangren, you've defeated my junior brother Yuanhong. Today I shall avenge him. It was you who ambushed me just now. I was careless and fell for it. Now let's fight face to face. I'll let you see my strength. The Taoist rhymes around him surged and a large amount of sword chi exploded, forming a giant white sword shadow above his head, exuding an endless amount of sharp chi. The white sword shadow slashed down as if it was tearing the void apart. Chu Kuangren looked up and lifted his palm. The 5 supreme foundation levels within his body radiated with a divine light, and a surge of spiritual power violently slammed into the void, triggering the earth chi. A majestic surge of Taoist rhyme converged at the center of his palm. That palm strike was earth-shattering. When the palm strike landed on the white sword shadow, the horrifying human mountain strength erupted and attacked the sword shadow. In an instant, countless cracks appeared on the incredibly sharp sword shadow. How is this possible? Bai Qianjun's expression changed, and the spiritual power within his body continuously surged to resist the human mountain stamp's power. However, it was all in vain. The gap between him and Chu Kuangren was too big. Be it in terms of spiritual power or Taoist techniques, they were incomparable. With a loud bang, the white sword shadow suddenly exploded, and the spiritual power and Taoist rhyme dissipated. The horrifying impact once again landed on Bai Qianjun's body, sending him flying into the street and smashing through a few walls. His whole body lay in the rubble and his aura was extremely weak. That attack had severely injured him. Face to face? There's no difference, it's just a slap to the face, Chu Kuangren said calmly. In a flash, Chu Kuangren appeared in front of Bai Qianjun like a ray of light, and he grabbed his yin and yang ring. Chu Kuangren, what are you doing? Bai Qianjun struggled to get up, and he stared at Chu Kuangren with a murderous glare. Do you really think you can get away scot-free by provoking me? Bai Qianjun almost vomited blood when he heard that. Chu Kuangren, you've severely injured me, isn't that enough? I hit you because you really deserved it. As for the price of provoking me, I'll use this yin and yang ring as a replacement. Chu Kuangren played with Bai Qianjuan's yin and yang ring for a while before he put it away. Chu Kuangren, you've gone too far. Bai Qianjun was furious. Elder Lu, come out. From the void, a gray-robed elder walked out. This person was an honorable Taoist protector that the Dharma sect had arranged for Bai Qianjun. Oh, so you're calling for help even though you can't beat me? Alright, I'll ask you one more time. Do you dare to fight me? Chu Kuangren looked at Elder Lu. Elder Lu's face instantly turned gloomy, but no matter how displeased he was, he did not make a move. What a joke. He could guarantee that if he dared to fight Chu Kuangren, he would not live for even a second. Did he really think that the seventh forefather was an honorable supreme? Moreover, he had a feeling that, even if the seventh forefather did not make a move, Chu Kuangren could still deal with him or even kill him. The feeling was so strong that he had to be careful. Brother Chu, you've once visited the Dharma sect, discussed Taoism and learned techniques from us. Brother Chu, do you really want to go this far without considering our past relationship? That's a different matter altogether. Besides, didn't I already give the human mountain stamp to the Dharma sect? I don't owe you anything. If I really want to go this far, do you really think Yuan Hong and him would still be alive? Chu Kuangren pointed at Bai Qianjun. You. Elder Lu was speechless. Alright, this yin and yang ring is mine now. Chu Kuangren sighed in his heart. It was not easy for him to nurse his eggs. After that, he turned around and left. Elder Lu, are you really going to let him leave just like that? Bai Qianjuan's eyes were filled with reluctance. That yin and yang ring was his entire fortune. There was a pile of soul stones and supreme elixirs in it. Sai, what else can we do? If we fight, I'm afraid both of us will die. Elder Lu sighed. D***, how can he be so strong? Bai Qianjun said unwillingly. He was an ancient sky pride, and ever since he came to this era, his life had been smooth sailing. He did not expect to lose so badly today. He could not even withstand a single attack from Chu Kuangren. That's right, how can he be so strong? Elder Lu could not help but lament. His gaze was extremely complicated. It would be great if this person was from the Dharma sect. Chu Kuangren alone is better than 10 young emperors. Bai Qianjuan's expression became even uglier when even his protector had such high praise for Chu Kuangren. At that moment, something strange happened. The sword in Bai Qianjuan's hand suddenly vibrated. Chapter 140. A strange fluctuation suddenly spread throughout the entire Sword Prayer City. As if they were summoned, the swords in the city began to vibrate and buzz non-stop. What's going on? My sword is out of control. Me too. I've refined this flying sword for decades, and it's like an extension of my arm. Why is it not under my control now? At the Great Sword Tournament, the ringing of swords pierced the sky. Chu Kuangren, who was about to leave, also felt this fluctuation. In other words, he had already sensed it earlier. But now it was even stronger. The Descendant's self-sword in his sword case was trembling. Chu Kuangren took out the Descendant's self-sword and stroked its blade with his finger to calm it down. After a while, the sword finally calmed down. However, the swords of the other sword cultivators were different. The fluctuation in the distance grew stronger and stronger. Countless sword cultivators' swords flew out of control and hovered in the air. The sword cultivators at the scene were at a loss of what to do. The people of the Feng family looked into the distance and their expressions changed drastically. That's the direction of the Sky Fire Valley. It's the Sword Soul. Something has happened to the Sword Soul. Far away in the valley, a dazzling sword ray soared into the sky. Amidst the sword light, a translucent, crystal-like long sword materialized and shot toward the Great Sword Tournament. Behind the crystal long sword, several figures were chasing after it. The three people in the lead had extremely powerful auras. The Sword Soul is heading towards the Great Sword Tournament. I didn't expect the Sword Soul to be so powerful that it could tear through our formation. This is going to be troublesome. No matter what, we must get our hands on this Sword Soul. The Sword Soul is heading towards the Great Sword Tournament. This Sword Soul doesn't have a physical body, so it will definitely look for a sword to attach itself to. Lock down the entire Great Sword Tournament and don't let a single person or sword escape. The group of black-robed cultivators discussed among themselves. At that moment, the Sword Soul they were talking about, which was the crystal-like longsword, had arrived at the Great Sword Tournament. The longswords that were hovering in the air seemed to be extremely excited as they leaped towards the crystal-like longsword of their own accord. The crowd had an inexplicable feeling. Now this group of swords were like hungry ghosts, and the crystal sword was a stunning beauty that could captivate one's soul. Clang 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 clang, one by one, the long swords rushed towards the crystal long sword, as if they wanted to take this stunning beauty for themselves. However, because there were too many of them, the swords collided with each other, causing sparks to fly. Some of the swords with lower levels and inferior materials were directly broken into several pieces in the consecutive collisions and fell to the ground. The crystal sword dodged left and right among the countless swords, even releasing streams of sword energy to knock away the swords that approached it. Countless swords fought in the sky until their heads bled. The group of sword masters below were dumbfounded. At the same time, their faces were filled with confusion. Only a few knowledgeable sword cultivators could guess what was going on. That's a sword soul. Heavens, why is there a sword soul here? Sword soul? This is an existence that every sword cultivator dreams of. Once the sword soul is subdued and attached to the sword, the grade of the sword will increase rapidly, erupting with unimaginable power. It is even possible for it to become a sovereign weapon. What the hell is going on? The sword soul was a rare spiritual object in the world. In the last 150,000 years, the number of sword souls born could be counted with one hand. Who cares what's going on? Let's get this sword soul first. A sword cultivator made a move. He rushed out and grabbed the sword that belonged to him in the air. He activated his spiritual power, knocked away the other swords and stabbed at the sword soul. Just as the sword cultivator was about to succeed, he was knocked away by a stream of sword energy. It was another sword cultivator who stopped him. You want the sword soul? You have to ask me first. That's right, this sword soul is mine. I came to fight for the century-old sword, but I didn't expect to see this sword soul. This is much more precious than the century-old sword. This trip is not in vain. As long as I get the sword soul, my strength will definitely increase rapidly. I might even be able to upgrade my sword to a sovereign weapon. Damn, if I have a sovereign weapon, who can stop me in this world? What sage orthodoxy? It's all bullshit. All the sword cultivators went crazy. They looked at the sword soul with fiery eyes. To a sword cultivator, the sword soul was even more precious than the primordial emperor's essence. All the sword cultivators rushed up into the sky and retrieved their swords. They surrounded the sword soul and began a battle. Large amounts of sword chi and various kinds of sword-based Taoist rhymes collided in the sky, creating a colorful scene. Who dares to snatch the sword soul of Sword Prayer City? At this moment, the swordsmithing family, the Feng family, also made their move. Feng Xuanzi led his men to fight for the sword soul. He had white hair, but his muscles looked like they were made of molten steel, and he exuded an extremely domineering aura. The surrounding sword chi hit his body and actually produced the sound of metal clashing against metal, shattering one after another. He punched out, creating a terrifying sonic boom in the air, and some swordsmen exploded along with their swords. How was this an old man? He was clearly a Tyrannosaurus in human form. You're the sword soul of Sword Prayer City? Who would believe that? That's right, the sword soul belongs to the strongest. One of the honorable swordsmen said. The sword soul was too tempting for them. Even if the sword soul really belonged to Sword Prayer City, they still had to fight for it. ****, if you dare to fight for it, I'll smash your dog heads. Feng Xuanzi was so angry that his eyes were wide open. A domineering Taoist rhyme circulated around his body, making him look extremely terrifying. Bring it on, I'm not afraid of you. I'm determined to get the sword soul. The fight for the sword soul became more and more intense. A terrifying energy storm swept through the area, destroying several streets nearby. Everything within a 10-kilometer radius was reduced to ruins. Chu Kuangren held the Descendant Self-Sword in his hand while Lan Yu stood beside him. They did not join the fight. Master, are we not going to fight for the sword soul? Lan Yu asked. Someone's coming. Chu Kuangren looked into the distance. He and the seventh forefather could sense that there was a large group of people heading towards the Great Sword Tournament. And every single one of them was a swordsman. It seems that the appearance of the sword soul has something to do with this group of people. Chu Kuangren chuckled. He turned to look at the sword soul in the sky, then looked at the crowd of sword cultivators who were going crazy over it. He shook his head. If this group of people continues to fight like this, I don't know how many people will die. Besides, I'm afraid that the sword cultivators who caused the appearance of the sword soul are not here with good intentions. Sai, it's my fault for being so kind-hearted. In order to avoid casualties, I'll reluctantly accept this sword soul. As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying sword-based Taoist rhyme erupted from Chu Kuangren's body. The sword Qi formed the sword of the heavens above his head, and the green sword Qi lotus bloomed beneath his feet. Then 12 sword Qi pillars sealed the sky and ground. The 3 Taoist physique transformations were activated at the same time. Chapter 141. Sword-based Taoist rhymes filled the air as the 3 great Taoist physique transformations were activated. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart resonated with the sword soul, and the sword soul flew towards Chu Kuangren like a swallow flying into a forest. When the other sword cultivators saw that, how could they let the sword soul fall into someone else's hands? They all tried to stop it. If you want the sword soul, you'll have to ask for my permission first. That's right, this sword soul is mine. Even if it's Chu Kuangren, I'll fight for it. The group of sword cultivators tried to stop the sword soul, but before they could even get close to it, a surge of pressure surged towards them from all directions. Everyone, including the honorable swordsmen, were frozen in mid-air. If you want to snatch it, you'll have to ask for my permission first, Chu Kuangren said calmly. In his 9-heaven sword prison, any cultivator, especially sword cultivators, would be suppressed by him. With his current cultivation level, even an honorable would be the same. All the sword cultivators' expressions changed drastically. They never expected Chu Kuangren to be able to suppress all the sword cultivators. After all, there were more than a dozen honorable swordsmen here, and the other battle monarchs and sword cultivators numbered in the hundreds. As expected of the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, it's really powerful. Feng Xuanzi's expression turned serious when he saw that. He did not stop it because he could feel a terrifying aura locking onto him. It was the 7th forefather staring at him. Although the Black Heaven sect and Sword Prayer City were on good terms, Chu Kuangren was too important to the Black Heaven sect. Even if it meant offending the Sword Prayer City, they would still protect him. Whoosh! The crystal sword soul came before Chu Kuangren, circled around him twice, and finally entered the Descendant Self-Sword in his hand. In an instant, the Descendant Self-Sword in Chu Kuangren's hand emitted an incomparably dazzling brilliance, and bursts of mysterious Taoist rhymes circulated. Chu Kuangren could clearly feel that the Descendant Self-Sword was transforming, and it was transforming by leaps and bounds. As if the Descendant Self-Sword had come to life, it let out a piercing sword hum, and all the swords around it trembled. It was as if they were unwilling, but at the same time they had a sense of submission. The change lasted for quite a while before the Kunwu sacred sword gradually retracted its brilliance. That white jade-like sword body looked even more crystal clear. Compared to a sword, the Descendant Self-Sword now looked more like an exquisite work of art. Taoist rhymes flowed throughout its body. Sage Ruler Weapon. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. The Descendant Self-Sword had been upgraded by 2 grades due to the sword soul's attachment, making it a Sage Ruler Weapon. Moreover, he could clearly feel that the power of the sword soul had yet to be fully unleashed. Kunwu still had a lot of room for growth. In addition, the mysterious sword-based Taoist rhyme that came with the sword soul was also very helpful for him to comprehend the sword Tao. Not only could it raise the grade of a sword, but it could also help a sword cultivator comprehend the Taoist aura of the sword. This sword soul was indeed a treasure that a sword cultivator could only dream of. The sword soul has been taken by Chu Kuangren. Damn it, he has the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, so it makes sense that the sword soul would choose him. He already has a supreme physique of the sword Tao, and now that he has the help of the sword soul, Chu Kuangren's future achievements will be unimaginable. I'm afraid it won't be long before he becomes the #1 swordsman. All the sword Shio's faces were filled with unwillingness. If the sword soul had not fallen into Chu Kuangren's hands, then they could still fight for it. However, since the sword soul was already in Chu Kuangren's hands, they would undoubtedly become enemies with the Black Heaven sect if they tried to fight for it. Although the sword soul was precious, they valued their own lives more. Perhaps the sword soul being in his hands is not a bad outcome. Feng Xuanzi sighed when he saw that. Then, a murderous intent shot out from his eyes. The sword soul has always been in the Skyfire Valley. Now that the sword soul has appeared, something must have happened in the Skyfire Valley. Who dares to cause trouble in Sword Prayer City? Just when Feng Xuanzi was about to send someone to investigate, he saw a group of masked black figures coming from afar. There were so many of them that they soon surrounded the entire Great Sword Tournament. Whoever has the sword soul, hand it over now. The leader of the masked men said in a hoarse voice. You're the ones who broke into the Skyfire Valley. Feng Xuanzi stood out and glared at the leader of the masked men. Feng Xuanzi activated his spiritual thought, trying to see through the masked man's identity. However, the masked man was prepared and formed a spiritual thought barrier around his body to prevent others from peeking at him. Not only him but the others did the same as well. The Sword Prayer City has been forging swords for so many years that a sword soul has been born. It must not have been easy for you to keep such a secret for so many years. However, it's time for this sword soul to find a new owner. The masked man sneered. Yes, you're right. Chu Kuangren's voice came from the crowd. He held the descendant self-sword and slowly walked to the front of the crowd. Now that the sword soul has found a new owner, it's time for you guys to leave. All the masked men looked at him. To be more precise, they were looking at the descendant self-sword in his hand. It's the sword soul's aura. The sword soul is inside that sword. Take that sword. It's him, Chu Kuangren. This is going to be tricky. The sword soul had just merged with the descendant self-sword, and its aura had yet to be fully concealed. However, the masked men immediately sensed the abnormality of the descendant self-sword. However, some of them knew who Chu Kuangren was and their gazes turned serious. Chu Kuangren, hand over the sword soul and we'll leave now, the masked man said. It was obvious that he did not want to make an enemy out of Chu Kuangren. What if I don't? Then don't blame us for being rude. The masked men at the scene condensed their aura and sword chi started to circulate. Every one of them was a sword cultivator, and the weakest among them was at least a nascent soul cultivator. Do you think you guys from the North Sea Sword Pavilion and the Steel Sword Sect are enough? Chu Kuangren said calmly. The masked men at the scene were shocked when they heard that. The others looked at each other in dismay. North Sea Sword Pavilion, Steel Sword Sect, it's them. They're the famous sword orthodoxies of the Azure Dragon domain, second only to the Sage orthodoxies. I can't believe they're here to steal the sword soul. How did Chu Kuangren know? The North Sea Sword Pavilion sect leader and the Steel Sword sect leader are both part of the 7 heroes of the Sword Dao. They're both honorable cultivators. Feng Xuanzi's eyes lit up when he heard that. I remember now. Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman visited Sword Prayer City and Skyfire Valley some time ago. That's when you started to scheme for the sword soul, right? Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman, you dare to do it, but you don't dare to show yourself. The masked man was silent for a while before he laughed and took off his mask, revealing the face of an ordinary middle-aged man. It really is Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman. The sword cultivator's expressions changed slightly. The person beside Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman also took off his mask. It was the sect leader of another honorable orthodoxy, the Steel Sword Sect, Honorable Swordsman of Steel. Chu Kuangren looked at the other masked man who still refused to take off his mask and said, "They've already shown themselves. My defeated foes. Sword Hoarder, are you still not going to show yourself?" Chu Kuangren. With his identity exposed, Sword Hoarder stared at Chu Kuangren hatefully and took off his mask as well. The crowd gasped again. Each of the 7 heroes of the Sword Dao was powerful enough to make a name for themselves, but there were 3 of them gathered here. What a grand occasion. Chapter 142. Even Honorable Supremes couldn't see through my true identity, but I can't believe you, Chu Kuangren, managed to see through me. It seems like you have some kind of unique perception technique on you, Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman said as he looked at Chu Kuangren. Now that your identities have been exposed, are you guys not going to retreat? No, the sword soul is ours. Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman said. Sword chi swirled around his body as a surge of sword-based Taoist rhyme emanated. It was like a tsunami that shook the void. You guys want to go against the Black Heaven sect? Chu Kuangren raised an eyebrow in surprise. He did not expect Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman to be so bold. This is an era of great competition. It's not just you so-called sky prides. Everyone is fighting for opportunities of fortune, resources, and pride. If we're afraid of the slightest thing, we won't be able to reach the peak. I must get the sword soul. Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman's eyes lit up. The sword-based Taoist rhyme on his body grew colder. He had reached the level of an honorable supreme. The 7th forefather walked out of the void and looked at Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman. I didn't expect you to break through to the honorable supreme realm. You do have some skills. Black Heaven sect's 7th forefather, the peerless sword cultivator who dominated the firmament star thousands of years ago. Today I shall challenge you. Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman saluted and held his sword in front of his chest. His eyes were filled with battle intent. He sent a telepathic message to Honorable Swordsman of Steel and Sword Hoarder. I'll hold the seventh forefather back. I'll leave Chu Kuangren to you guys. All right. Whoosh, Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman immediately dashed towards the seventh forefather. The two Honorable Supremes immediately collided. Two swords collided in the void, emitting a clanging sound. Majestic sword chi was like a flood, sweeping in all directions in an instant. As the Supreme Honorable Swordsman fought, the terrifying energy ripples shook the void. The ground was torn apart and the surrounding buildings collapsed one after another. Chu Kuangren hand over the sword soul. Sword Hoarder held his sword and attacked Chu Kuangren. The pitch-black long sword in his hand was filled with ferocious chi. As for Honorable Swordsman of Iron, he also made his move. His sword was just an ordinary iron sword, but when he swung it, it was very terrifying. Every move he made had the power to topple mountains and overturn seas, causing the void to tremble. You want to hurt our saint? Dream on. The two protectors, Honorable Qing Lan and Old Lady Meng, immediately tried to stop him, but Chu Kuangren beat them to it. Elders, please allow me to handle this myself. Chu Kuangren took a step forward and his three Taoist physique transformations surrounded him as his battle monarch domain erupted. With a slash of the sword, a terrifying purple sword light that was wrapped in an unstoppable Taoist rhyme surged out and smashed onto the bodies of the two supreme beings. With just one sword, the two supreme martial artists were forced to retreat at the same time. Old Lady Meng and Honorable Qing Lan looked at each other helplessly. Chu Kuangren was so powerful, what else could they do? The job of a Tao protector was too easy. Such a powerful sword chi. Is this the Chu Kuangren whose name shook the world 3 years ago? This kind of strength is indeed shocking. Sword Hoarder was still fine since he had already experienced Chu Kuangren's strength. On the other hand, Honorable Swordsman of Steel, who was fighting Chu Kuangren for the first time, was shocked. He could not help but tighten his grip on his sword. Honorable Swordsman, if you have any skills, please show me. Don't disappoint me. Chu Kuangren stood in the air with his black hair and peerless white robe. He smiled at the two Honorable Swordsmen with his sword in hand. A single person facing off against two sword paragons. This scene caused many sword cultivators to gulp, feeling that it was a little absurd. It was not like they had never seen Sky Prides before, especially in this era of great battles. Sky Prides were emerging one after another, each more powerful than the last. However, no matter how powerful those Sky Prides were, they could only withstand a few attacks from Honorable Swordsmen. None of them were like Chu Kuangren, who could force two Honorable Swordsmen to retreat with just one sword attack. His strength was beyond everyone's imagination. Kill. Sword Hoarder's aura erupted. Together with the Troop Breaker sword in his hand, he was like a ferocious ancient beast as he charged towards Chu Kuangren. His violent sword chi immediately locked onto Chu Kuangren. You look more powerful now that you've changed your sword. Chu Kuangren held the Descendant Self-Sword in his hand. The blade trembled slightly, and an incredibly mysterious sword-based Taoist rhyme erupted as he cast the heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique. The purple sword ray that contained a mysterious Taoist rhyme far surpassed that of the Honorable Swordsman. It only took an instant for it to shatter Sword Hoarder's outer layer of sword chi. The sword ray then collided with the Troop Breaker sword in Sword Hoarder's hand. With a loud clang, the huge force almost broke Sword Hoarder's arm. He could no longer hold the sword in his hand, and the Troop Breaker sword flew out of his hand. Chu Kuangren's figure turned into a stream of light. No one could see how he moved, but when he reappeared, he was already holding the Troop Breaker sword in his hand and was carefully examining it. The sword is not bad. It's a ferocious sword. Chu Kuangren was a little surprised. Although the Troop Breaker sword was not a sage weapon, its ferocious chi was stronger than any other sage weapon. Troop Breaker, give me back my Troop Breaker sword. Sword Hoarder's expression was extremely ugly as he channeled his spiritual thoughts to summon the Troop Breaker sword back. However, the Troop Breaker sword in Chu Kuangren's hand continued to tremble. Oh, it's been refined this time. Chu Kuangren chuckled. He then channeled his spiritual power to suppress the Troop Breaker sword. As if the Troop Breaker sword had sensed the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart's aura from Chu Kuangren's spiritual power, the originally trembling Troop Breaker sword suddenly calmed down. It even retracted its ferocious chi and became extremely docile. Chu Kuangren was slightly surprised. The Troop Breaker sword was very powerful, and he thought he would have to spend more effort to suppress it. He did not expect it to be this easy. Not far away, Sword Hoarder kept calling for the Troop Breaker sword, but it was useless. The Troop Breaker sword did not respond at all. How can this be? Sword Hoarder was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He felt like he had been abandoned by the Troop Breaker sword. Even this broken sword has submitted to Chu Kuangren's exquisite 9 orifices sword heart? Sword Hoarder stared at Chu Kuangren, his body trembling and his eyes bloodshot. He was so jealous that he was about to go crazy. He had high hopes for the Troop Breaker sword. Out of all the swords he had collected, Chu Kuangren had chosen to refine the Troop Breaker sword. He had nurtured the Troop Breaker sword day and night, almost treating it like a lover. But now, the Troop Breaker sword had only just met Chu Kuangren and was immediately attracted to him. It did not care about the friendship between them at all. Although swords did not have hearts, humans did. How could Sword Hoarder not be mad at the sight of this? The surrounding sword cultivators could not help but feel pity for Chu Kuangren. They were also amazed by Chu Kuangren's Taoist physique. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart really lives up to its name. This physique is very helpful to sword cultivators, but it's a huge threat to other sword cultivators. That's right. The sword cultivators present secretly swore to themselves that if they ever met Chu Kuangren again, they would hide their swords first. Otherwise they would have nowhere to cry if they lost their swords. Chu Kuangren looked at Sword Hoarder and smiled. You're too generous. A few days ago you gave me a sword case and a dozen famous swords, and now you're giving me a sword of extreme ferocity. Sword Hoarder could not hold it in any longer. Sword chi surged around his body, and he used his palm as a sword to fight Chu Kuangren. However, a terrifying aura erupted from behind Sword Hoarder. Sword Hoarder, get out of the way. Honorable Swordsman of Steel yelled. He raised the iron sword in his hand high, and a majestic surge of Taoist rhyme and spiritual power erupted, forming a gigantic sword shadow. Chapter 143. The majestic sword shadow locked onto Chu Kuangren and slashed down. That sword attack was extremely terrifying. Even if it was not as powerful as an Honorable Supreme, it was not far from it. Chu Kuangren gripped the Descendant Self-Sword tightly and grinned. Now that's more like it. Heaven-slaying sword drawing technique. Chu Kuangren gripped the sword and swung it in one go. With the help of the Sword Soul, the Descendant Self-Sword had been upgraded to the level of a Sage Ruler weapon. In addition to the 5 Supreme Foundation levels, Chu Kuangren's spiritual power was no weaker than any Honorable. Moreover, his understanding of Dao techniques was too deep. He could easily use Sage Ruler techniques. Although he was only a battle monarch, the power of that sword attack was comparable to an Honorable Supreme. The blinding sword ray made all the sword cultivators squint unconsciously. The sword-based Taoist rhyme made their scalps tingle. Boom. With a loud explosion, the sword chi collided with the sword chi, setting off a violent shockwave. The ground was easily torn apart, and the surrounding buildings were destroyed like thin pieces of paper. A large number of sword cultivators were sent flying like broken kites, flying back and forth in the air, exclamations and cries of pain ringing incessantly. Watching the show was risky too. Many cultivators in the cultivation world had been killed by the shockwaves of battle. A ** CKME run? It's too late. Hey, I'm flying. Oh my god, I was almost killed by the sword chi. The crowd of cultivators panicked. Even some of the honorable swordsmen felt their scalps go numb and their hearts palpitated. Boom. At that moment, a figure flew out from the violent energy storm and instantly landed on the street, kicking up a cloud of dust. Everyone took a closer look and gulped. The person who flew out was Honorable Swordsman of Steel. As one of the 7 heroes of the swordsmanship world, he was always in the limelight. However, his hair was disheveled, his body was covered in blood, and his luxurious robes were torn to shreds by the sword chi. His appearance could only be described in one word: pathetic. If he were to be described as more pathetic, it would be extremely pathetic. Chu Kuangren. Venerable swordsman of iron gritted his teeth and looked at the sky. All he saw was Chu Kuangren looking down at him. His eyes were calm and emotionless. Compared to Honorable Swordsman of Steel, who was in an extremely sorry state, Chu Kuangren's white robe was as clean as ever. It was as if he was a high and mighty deity. Too weak. These are the 7 heroes of sword doctrine? How disappointing. Chu Kuangren shook his head, his tone filled with disappointment. Then he looked at the other sword cultivators around him and said calmly, I almost forgot, there's still you guys. Why aren't you guys attacking? Many sword cultivators from the North Sea Sword Pavilion and Steel Sword sect had come, and they were all at least at the nascent soul realm. However, these people were as silent as cicadas in winter. When they saw Chu Kuangren looking at them, each and every one of them trembled in fear. Go. Everyone go. He's just a battle king warrior, we'll be able to exhaust him to death. Sword Hoarder roared. The group of sword cultivators looked at each other. No one dared to step forward. Too terrifying, too terrifying. Even the 7 heroes of the Way of the Sword could hang him up and beat him, and now you're telling me that he's only a battle king. Was it the world that had gone mad, or were they? Honorable swordsman of steel, send your people up. He's just a battle king warrior, we can exhaust him to death. Seeing that everyone was stunned, Sword Hoarder could not help but feel exasperated. He then turned around and said to the disheveled honorable swordsman of steel. At that moment, one of the sword cultivators in the crowd suddenly said with a trembling voice, 3 years ago he killed 100,000 demonic cultivators at the Weeping Demon Mountain. How can we possibly exhaust him to death? As soon as he said that, everyone's body trembled as all the rumors about Chu Kuangren surfaced in their minds. 3 years ago he was only a Paradise Realm cultivator, yet he was able to kill 100,000 demonic cultivators at the Weeping Demon Mountain. 3 years later, his cultivation base had become even stronger. He was now a battle monarch, while the rest of them did not even have a tenth of his strength, let alone 100,000. How could they possibly exhaust Chu Kuangren to death? Don't give yourself too much credit. Even they could not believe what they were hearing. Is he really that invincible? Sword Hoarder stared at Chu Kuangren in disbelief and murmured with a trembling voice. He could not believe it. Chu Kuangren was just a young cultivator, so how could he possess such terrifying strength? Moreover, he was already so powerful 3 years ago. If he did not go into closed-door meditation for 3 years, the world would have been turned upside down by him. Let's go. Sword Hoarder gulped. Not daring to think about the sword soul anymore, he turned around and fled into the distance. However, at that moment, a ray of light streaked across the sky and caught up to Sword Hoarder in the blink of an eye, blocking his path. It was Chu Kuangren. With the phantom light strike, even an honorable would not be able to match his speed. It was impossible for Sword Hoarder to escape. Get out of my way. Seeing that, Sword Hoarder channeled his spiritual power to its limit and a large amount of sword chi gushed out from his palm. However, he was no match for Chu Kuangren with his sword in hand. Now that he had lost his sword, he did not even have the right to hurt Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren raised his palm and unleashed the human mountain stamp's power, shattering Sword Hoarder's sword chi and slamming him into the ground. Then Chu Kuangren threw the troop breaker, which pierced through Sword Hoarder's body and pinned him to the ground. Chu Kuangren, let me go. For the sake of the sword case and those swords, please let me go, Sword Hoarder begged in fear. This is the second time you've attacked me. Chu Kuangren came before Sword Hoarder and said indifferently. I was wrong. I won't do it again. There won't be a next time. Chu Kuangren placed his hand on the troop breaker's hilt and channeled the sword chi into Sword Hoarder's body. A large amount of sword chi burst out, and along with bursts of blood mist, Sword Hoarder's body was riddled with holes. One of the 7 heroes of the swordsmanship world had fallen. Not far away, a figure took advantage of Chu Kuangren killing Sword Hoarder to escape. It was Honorable Swordsman of Steel. When the surrounding sword cultivators saw this, their expressions changed, especially the disciples and elders of the Metal Sword sect. They could not believe it. Sect leader. D***, the sect leader ran away. D***, that shameless bastard. Chu Kuangren pulled out the troop breaker and sneered when he noticed Honorable Swordsman of Steel's escape. Idiot. Honorable Swordsman of Steel, who was escaping, suddenly noticed 2 figures in front of him. It was a beautiful lady and an old lady. Both of them exuded a terrifying honorable aura. D***, it's Chu Kuangren's protector. Honorable Swordsman of Steel's face turned pale. Those 2 were Honorable Qing Lan and Old Lady Meng. You think you can leave just because the bachelor sage didn't let you? Dream on. Honorable Qing Lan sneered and unleashed a palm attack. A white beam of light shot out and blasted Honorable Swordsman of Steel, who was already heavily injured by Chu Kuangren, backward. Then, a stream of light flashed across the void and arrived before Honorable Swordsman of Steel. Before he could react, he felt a chill on his neck and his life force was rapidly draining away. Before he died, all he saw was Chu Kuangren raising his palm towards him. There was a pitch-black whirlpool on his palm that looked like the mouth of a giant beast. Chapter 144. Every sword cultivator at the Great Sword Tournament was dumbfounded. What did they just see? A battle monarch had killed 2 honorables. Moreover, he did it without a scratch. How could he tell them that he was a battle monarch cultivator? Who the F***ck would believe that? Chu Kuangren is so terrifying. With such combat strength, I'd believe it even if you told me he was an honorable supreme. Battle monarch? Whose battle monarch cultivator is this powerful? That's right, he's too terrifying. Oh my god, the current young emperor, the 10 unparalleled warriors. I don't think even the most outstanding sky prides are as powerful as him. Bai Qianjun was also in the crowd. He looked at Chu Kuangren in the sky and felt his pupils tremble. With such combat strength, Chu Kuangren could definitely kill him with a single slap. Did he just provoke such a powerful being? Bai Qianjun still had a lingering fear at that thought. Is this the person who suppressed all the sky prides 3 years ago? How terrifying. Bai Qianjun's voice was trembling. At first, he thought that no matter how strong Chu Kuangren was, he would at most be slightly stronger than sky prides like Yuan Hong and Gu Chang'e. Now it seemed that he was wrong. They were on a completely different level. Bai Qianjun could not be compared to him. Brother Chu is still as powerful as ever. After 3 years of closed-door meditation, when everyone has forgotten about him, he can still shock the world. Li Xingqian could not help but exclaim. Within his body, the sage ruler remnant spirit was also secretly shocked. This person's combat strength is too terrifying. To be able to kill 2 honorables as a battle monarch cultivator, this is unprecedented in my era. Terrifying. I'm afraid this person will become my greatest enemy in the future. Li Xingqian did not know what the sage ruler remnant spirit was thinking. He was still in awe of Chu Kuangren's strength. Sword Hoarder and Honorable Swordsman of Steel are both dead. Chu Kuangren has such strength. In the distance, Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman, who was fighting with the 7th Forefather, could not help but feel his heart skip a beat. Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman let out a scream and retreated a few dozen feet. It's not easy to reach the Supreme Venerable Plane. You should have been invincible, but you chose to die. What a pity. The 7th Forefather held the green vine sword and looked at the North Sea Venerable Swordsman coldly. Although the other party was also an exalted supreme being like him, he was a veteran exalted supreme being, while the other party had clearly just advanced to this realm not too long ago. If they were to fight, the other party would not be a match for him at all. Supreme Honorable, the Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman laughed bitterly when he heard this. Then his laughter grew louder and louder. Haha, the Supreme Honorable Swordsman sounds high and mighty, revered by billions of people. But in front of the sage he's just an ant. In the era of great battles, the stars shine brightly, but the world is still controlled by the saints. You and I are merely chess pieces in the hands of the saints. Not to mention that there are emperors above saints. Only by becoming an emperor could one break away from everything and rise above all living beings. Since this is an era of great competition, I naturally have to fight for that sliver of opportunity to become an emperor. Even if I die for this, I have no regrets. Northern Sea Venerable Swordsman spoke passionately, moving everyone. A ray of light appeared in front of Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman. Chu Kuangren looked at him indifferently. Of course you can fight for it in the era of great battles, but the winner takes all. You've lost. Yes, I've lost. But Chu Kuangren, do you really think you can remain invincible forever? Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman gritted his teeth and said, I will suppress all enemies in this world. As soon as Chu Kuangren finished speaking, he raised his arm and channeled his spiritual power. A terrifying and boundless Taoist rhyme emanated, and a large amount of earth chi gathered in his palm. It turned into a majestic godly mountain that fell towards Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman. That godly mountain was too majestic. It was as if the entire void was about to collapse. Even the cultivators who were far away could feel the immense pressure. Their knees trembled, and their faces turned as white as a sheet. As for Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman, who was previously injured by the 7th Forefather, his entire body was crushed into the ground by the godly mountain. His body exploded, and a large amount of blood mist dyed the ground red. He had fallen. Chu Kuangren had killed another Honorable Swordsman. Sword Hoarder, Honorable Swordsman of Steel, and Northern Sea Honorable Swordsman had fallen one after another. What was there to fight? What was there to fight? They did not even dare to run away now. As long as they were not blind, they could see the 12 towering sword chi pillars that sealed off the surrounding space. They knew that with their cultivation level, they would not be able to escape from Chu Kuangren's 9 Heaven Sword prison transformation. Now you guys are the only ones left. After Chu Kuangren had killed the 3 honorables, he looked at the remaining sword cultivators with a playful look on his face. The sword cultivators shuddered and their hearts raced. They knew that the time to decide their fate had come. Leave your yin and yang rings behind and get lost, Chu Kuangren said. The crowd felt a sense of relief as if they had instantly ascended from hell to heaven. They could not contain their joy. They had survived. They had survived Chu Kuangren's attack. Yes. Thank you, Brother Chu, for sparing our lives. The sword cultivators left their yin and yang rings behind and quickly ran away. Buzz, a ray of sword chi flashed past and tore a sword cultivator in half. A large amount of blood mist sprayed out, scaring a few sword cultivators to the ground. Chu Kuangren, you went back on your word. One of the sword cultivators said angrily. Chu Kuangren said calmly, I'm a man of my word, but if anyone wants to take advantage of the situation, I won't be merciful. The crowd looked at the person who was killed and realized that he did not take off his yin and yang ring and wanted to leave with the crowd. Only then did they understand what Chu Kuangren meant by taking advantage of the situation. At that moment, those who wanted to do the same immediately gave up on the idea and obediently took off their yin and yang rings before leaving. Not long after, the crowd of sword cultivators quickly left the scene, leaving behind a pile of yin and yang rings on the ground. There were at least 1,000 of them. Chu Kuangren smiled happily and kept all the yin and yang rings. First, he had obtained the sword soul and now he had harvested a bunch of leeks. It was the right decision to come to Sword Prayer City. Master, are we just going to let them go? Lan Yu looked at the sword cultivators and asked. Chu Kuangren smiled faintly. It's fine. After this battle, their Taoist core has collapsed. From now on, they will respect me like a god. Junior Chu, congratulations on obtaining the sword soul. At that moment, Feng Xuanzi walked in front of Chu Kuangren and said with a complicated look. He knew that even if he asked for the sword soul now, Chu Kuangren would probably not return it to them. Moreover, the sword soul had already recognized its master. As long as Chu Kuangren did not die, the sword soul would forever belong to him. No other sword cultivator could take it away. The sword soul has suddenly appeared. Sword Prayer City must have encountered some trouble. Do you need my help? Chu Kuangren said. After all, he had taken their sword soul, and the Black Heaven sect was on good terms with Sword Prayer City. It was only right for him to help solve some problems for Sword Prayer City. Someone just came to report that the North Sea Sword Pavilion and Steel Sword sect had joined forces to break into Skyfire Valley to steal the sword soul. Fortunately, there were not many casualties. Thank you for your concern, Feng Xuanzi said. Sword Prayer City has forged many famous swords for generations. Most of the famous swords in the world originate from Sword Prayer City. It can be said that this is the place where swordsmanship is concentrated. Thousands of years ago, a sword soul was born here. Originally, we planned to find a suitable casting material and forge a divine sword for the sword soul. Who would have thought that something like this would happen first? What fate! Chapter 145. The appearance of the sword soul, which was then obtained by Chu Kuangren, made the Great Sword Tournament seem insignificant compared to such a huge event. In the end, Chu Kuangren naturally took the 100-year Heavenly Starry Sword. After all, who else among the sword cultivators present would dare to compete with him? Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Chu Kuangren kept it because he had the sacred emerald sword case with him anyway. All he needed to do was to nurture the sacred emerald sword case, which was equivalent to nurturing the other treasured swords at the same time. Fellow sword cultivators, other than the Great Sword Tournament, there is another matter that we are preparing to announce to the world. Feng Xuanzi shouted at the sword cultivators at the venue. Everyone looked at him curiously. There are countless famous swords under the heavens, but their owners are all mixed. Our Sword Reverence City has been preparing for many years, and we're preparing to compile 100 sword manuals. The 100 Sword Register lists all the famous swords under the heavens and their owners. Those swords that are listed in the 100 Sword Register are all famous swords and sword owners that have been carefully inspected by the Sword Reverence City. The crowd burst into an uproar. It was said that most of the famed swords in the world originated from the sword-reverent city. If one were to say who was the most qualified to rank the 100-sword spectrum, it would undoubtedly be the sword-reverent city. The 100-sword spectrum will be made public in 3 days, and it will be updated every 10 years. Please look forward to it, Feng Xuanzi announced. Some of the sword cultivators who had planned to leave after the Great Sword Tournament became interested and decided to stay for a while longer. The Great Sword Tournament had come to an end. The 100-sword spectrum was about to appear. When Chu Kuangren returned to the Feng family, he began to take inventory of his loot. His yin and yang ring was filled with piles of yin and yang rings. He could not count everything by himself, so he called Lan Yu along. It took them a whole day to count all the 2,100 universe rings. There were 12. 1 million upper spirit stones, 40 million medium spirit stones, and countless lower spirit stones. As for treasured medicines and medicinal pills, there were countless of them. Aside from keeping a portion of the soul stones for daily expenses, Chu Kuangren threw the rest of the soul stones into the godly phoenix egg. It was Chu Kuangren's first time witnessing the godly phoenix egg absorbing soul stones. The divine phoenix egg hopped to the center of the pile of spirit stones and unleashed a powerful suction force. The spirit chi of the surrounding spirit stones gushed out in a frenzy. It was like 100 rivers flowing into the sea. It was not just the spirit stones. Some spirit pills and treasured herbs were also sucked dry of their spirit chi and Dao runes. That scene was comparable to when he used the Taotai technique. Even after absorbing all the spirit stones and herbs, the divine phoenix egg still showed no signs of hatching. Why is this thing like a bottomless pit? TSK looks like there's still a long way to go before we can hatch it. Chu Kuangren lamented. At this moment, Chu Kuangren's descendant self-sword moved closer to him and rubbed its hilt against his face, as if it was complaining that Chu Kuangren had neglected it. Tisk, even this sword knows how to act coquettishly. Chu Kuangren placed the descendant self-sword horizontally in front of his knees and slowly stroked the blade with his fingertips. The sword trembled slightly and let out a soft hum. Ever since the sword soul entered his body, the descendant self-sword could no longer be treated as a normal sword. Unlike most sage weapons that had spirituality, the descendant self-sword now had complete spirituality. Spirituality and spirituality, the difference of a single word was like heaven and earth. In other words, the descendant self-sword could now be treated as a person with its own thoughts and attitude. Even when Chu Kuangren placed it in his spiritual mound, it would feel depressed as if it was locked up in a small black room. Come to think of it, since it had complete spirituality, anyone would feel depressed being kept in a confined space. Helpless, Chu Kuangren could only keep it by his side. Still, I need to find a scabbard, Chu Kuangren murmured. This sword ray was too sharp and it might hurt someone easily. The next day, Chu Kuangren found Feng Xuanzi and told him about his idea, asking him to make a scabbard. It's not difficult to make a scabbard for the descendant self-sword, but the descendant self-sword is now a sage ruler weapon, and with the sword soul attached to it, its level will definitely increase in the future. I'm afraid an ordinary scabbard is not good enough for it. Moreover, hiding a sword in a scabbard is to hide its sharpness. An ordinary scabbard can't hide the descendant self-sword's sharpness at all, so I need to find a top-notch casting material which I don't have yet. Feng Xuanzi said helplessly. The cleverest housewife could not cook without rice. Even if he was a famous crafting master, he did not have the ability to cast something out of thin air. I see. Chu Kuangren pondered. The descendant self-sword was too extraordinary now, so a scabbard that could go with it would definitely not be an ordinary item. Even if it was a casting material that could be used to cast 100-year-old swords, it was still not enough to make the descendant self-sword scabbard. Got it? Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. He took out a dark red spear from his yin and yang ring. It was the sage ruler weapon, the demonic spear of apocalypse, that he obtained in northern Lingdao. When the demonic spear appeared, a strange Taoist rhyme suddenly emanated. Even a strong cultivator like Feng Xuanzi was shocked. What a terrifying spear. This is a sage ruler weapon. Yes, Senior Feng. What do you think about melting it down and using it to cast the descendant self-sword scabbard? Chu Kuangren said. Feng Xuanzi could not help but be shocked by Chu Kuangren's idea. Melting down a sage ruler weapon just to make a scabbard? *CKME. That was a little too much, wasn't it? As a swordsmith grandmaster, it was his first time seeing something like that. Junior Chu, are you sure you want to do this? This is a sage ruler weapon we're talking about, Feng Xuanzi asked. Chu Kuangren smiled faintly. Isn't it better to use a sage ruler weapon as the descendant self-sword scabbard? Besides, I have no use for this spear anyway. It would be a waste to leave it in my yin and yang ring, so I might as well make use of it. But isn't this method of making use of it a little too extravagant? Feng Xuanzi muttered in his heart. If that's the case, then I'll listen to Junior Chu. It's just casting a scabbard, not an entire spear, Feng Xuanzi said. It's fine. I'll take the rest as payment for Senior Feng's help in casting the scabbard. I can't let you work for nothing. I won't hold back then. Feng Xuanzi did not hesitate and agreed right away. He looked at the demonic spear of apocalypse eagerly. Tsk, after so many years of swordsmithing, this is the first time I've melted down a sage ruler weapon to cast a scabbard. This experience must be very novel. As if sensing its fate, the demonic spear of apocalypse began to vibrate violently, trying to break free from Chu Kuangren's grasp. Chu Kuangren snorted coldly and channeled his spiritual power to suppress the demonic spear. Smelting the demonic spear of apocalypse was not an easy task. Even a grandmaster like Feng Xuanzi would need to spend a few days and nights to do it. During that time, the announcement of the 100-sword spectrum was not delayed either. Feng Xuanzi's younger brother, Feng Huzi, took over. On this day, the plaza where the Great Sword Tournament was originally held was filled with people. The crowd was so huge that one could not see the end of it. The scene was not inferior to the Great Sword Tournament because today was the day the 100-sword spectrum would be announced. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.